Chapter 298. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The azure calabash that was thousands of meters tall was swaying left and right, spewing out magma-like blood energy that pierced through the clouds. The commotion was simply too great. Moreover, large cracks appeared on the ground and extended for hundreds of kilometers. This scene was somewhat terrifying, as though the end of the world had arrived. Luo Tian, you want us to die with you? At this time, not to mention Chu Feng's group, even the marine race was dissatisfied. Some experts wanted to fall out with the marine race king, Luo Tian. That was because everything was caused by him. He waved the azure sword in his hand as though he had gone mad. He wanted to approach the calabash's mouth, break through the formless energy, and pluck the lamp away. Everyone felt that things weren't looking good. It was likely a great calamity was about to befall them. Go! Chu Feng shouted at Yellow Cattle and the others, telling them to leave with the old Grandmaster. He would bring up the rear and fight the Sea God Tiger and the Octopus King. I'll go with you. The Black Yak shouted. He tore open a stone fruit and dug out a piece of fragrant red meat. After eating it, he was once again full of vigor. He held the Buddha's staff in his hand and was prepared to fight to the death with the marine race. No need. All of you leave. Chu Feng refused. Any later, and the group wouldn't be able to leave. He possessed extreme speed and wasn't afraid at all. At the same time, he also had a great killing weapon on him. It was the last golden Arhut talisman. If used at the critical moment, it would be enough to resist the marine race's great killing weapon. You want to leave? Stop dreaming. Leave your lives behind. I won't leave until I kill you all. The Sea God Tiger roared with incomparable ferocity. He was obstructed by Chu Feng just as he was about to kill the Mastiff King and the 8 Visions Temple Master. Following which, he fought with Chu Feng, but actually failed to kill the other party. On the contrary, Chu Feng managed to save the Wudong Grandmaster. As the Sea God Tiger saw it, this was a type of provocation. A young human had saved people from right under their noses and fought with them. Now, he was delusional enough to escape? All of you must die. The Sea God Tiger roared loudly. His entire body was golden and covered in dense scales. The lines of his body were smooth and possessed an incomparable sense of power. His wings beat the sky as if they were about to tear the firmament apart. Covered in golden flames, it dove down from thousands of meters in the sky like a meteor crashing into the ground and charged at Chu Feng. At this moment, Chu Feng was fighting against the Octopus King. The blood energy around his body was boiling, and he was using all of his strength. Facing such a powerful enemy, he couldn't afford to hold anything back. The Sea God Tiger arrived at 5 times the speed of sound as he dived down from the sky. He made use of inertia and his incomparable explosive power to bombard Chu Feng's body. In the distance, both the marine race and the continental entities were overwhelmed with shock. The Sea God Tiger's giant claw had almost distorted the void. Golden light erupted from it, and the energy was like a mountain torrent bursting through a dam. Boom! It smashed down just like that. The golden tiger claw hadn't even come into contact with Chu Feng yet, but the energy pouring down had already scattered the mountain ridges below. Buzz! Dong! The mountain ridges below were swept up by the energy and directly torn apart. Following which, 2 mountain peaks were split into pieces and disintegrated with a loud bang. The scene was astonishing. One could easily imagine how violent the Sea God Tiger's attack was. He wanted to kill Chu Feng. Clang! Sure enough, when the tiger claw reached down, even Chu Feng's shingy golden bell canopy couldn't block it. One had to know that 7 true forms had appeared and were branded on the walls of the bell. It was much more powerful than when he was fighting against Xianyu and the Golden Crow. But now, the walls of the bell were torn apart with a loud crack. The tiger claw reached in and pierced through the shingy golden bell canopy. Cold light flickered amidst dazzling golden radiance. The Sea God Tiger's ferocious attack was unstoppable. The shingy true forms were scattered as the claw clawed at Chu Feng's spine. Chu Feng was deeply surprised. The destruction of the golden bell canopy put him in a passive position. He was originally locked in a fierce battle with the Octopus King, But his protective barrier had actually been pierced. Not only was he attacked from the back, but the Octopus King was also excited and went berserk. Its 8 arms danced about as it smashed forward. Thump, thump, thump. Chu Feng's hands moved in unison. Terrifying palm imprints clashed against the 8 arms like a series of mirages. An astonishing energy tempest burst forth and engulfed the dilapidated mountainous region below. At the same time, he shot out a glistening scarlet flying knife. He poured a terrifying amount of energy into it and used his spiritual energy to slash behind him to block the sea god tiger's sharp claws. Clang, 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 the flying knife weaved about and hacked continuously. Finally, it transformed into a scarlet shield which blocked behind him while he himself shifted to the side. That tiger claw was simply too astonishing. It was completely unafraid of the flying knife and, in the end, actually shook off the blade and slapped down. Even though Chu Feng had shifted to the side and didn't manage to grab his spine, a terrifying groove was left on the side of his body. It was so deep that bones could be seen, and sparkling red blood immediately splattered out. Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others on the ground cried out in alarm. Chu Feng had actually suffered serious injuries. This sea god tiger was indeed powerful and too ferocious. If it was an ordinary king-level entity with 6 severed shackles, their spine would have been broken and they would have died on the spot. The Manchurian tiger's hair stood on end. As a fellow tiger, he understood just how terrifying this golden-scaled tiger king was. Roar! The sea god tiger roared as golden light erupted from his body. He flapped his wings and hovered in midair, attacking frantically at Chu Feng. He wanted nothing more than to tear him apart. Human, I've already said you can't leave. Leave your life behind, the sea god tiger said coldly. The wound on Chu Feng's back was healing at a visible rate. He had already crossed the air and evaded the sea god tiger's next attack. Additionally, he changed his main target. The Xingyi Golden Bell appeared once again to block the Octopus King. He then leapt up and pounced towards the sea god tiger. Chu Feng formed a dragon seal with his left hand and a tiger seal with his right. He immediately used the ultimate move of the Xingyi Fist. Dragon and tiger contend for hegemony. Against such a sea god tiger, any fist technique had to be a powerful killing move. Otherwise, ordinary fist seals would be ineffective. Roar! The roar of a dragon and tiger reverberated through the air. This wasn't an ordinary fist seal, but an ancient killing technique. It surged violently as a terrifying spiral energy emerged, threatening to tear apart everything in its path. Thump, thump, thump. In midair, Chu Feng and the sea god tiger were entangled together. His fist seals were majestic as they smashed forward continuously. Every strike was akin to a divine mountain pressing down. Moreover, these fist seals would automatically form a spiral energy whenever they came into contact with a sea god tiger. The destructive force was simply too terrifying. One could see a faint golden spiral hurricane forming around the area, tearing apart all the mountain peaks they passed by. Blood splashed out from the sea god tiger's large claws as well as lacerations. Boom! The next moment, Chu Feng's fist seals changed once again. The demon flood dragon fist with his left hand and the demon ox fist with his right. This was his most powerful attack at the moment, but the golden bell canopy had disappeared. He focused on attacking the sea god tiger and traversed the mountain ridge at 5 times the speed of sound. He evaded the Octopus King and forced the sea god tiger into a decisive battle. The demon flood dragon fist was somewhat similar to the Xingyi fists in that they both contained a terrifying spiral energy. The slightest contact would tear the target apart from the outside. It was exceptionally tyrannical. Chu Feng streaked through the air. The sea god tiger's fist seal struck the mountain ridge as the sea god tiger evaded. It immediately tore a huge hole in the area, sending rocks and earth spiraling like a hurricane. The scene was somewhat terrifying. The demon ox fist was quite special. It could penetrate the target's interior and form a vibration. It was as though its energy could increase rapidly and explode from within. Chu Feng had gone crazy. He used 5 times the speed of sound to force the sea god tiger to fight him head-on. The sea god tiger was furious. One of his large claws was once again torn open by the demon flood dragon fist and was drenched in fresh blood. At the same time, the demon ox fist arrived. The fist intent was majestic, and several of the fists collided with the sea god tiger. Terrifying vibrations stacked up within the sea god tiger's flesh and blood, threatening to collapse his body. The sea god tiger let out an odd cry as a piece of flesh on his clawed arm exploded from within. A string of blood blossomed out, inflicting considerable injuries on the sea god tiger as fresh blood gushed out. "Didn't you want to kill me? Come at me." Chu Feng raised his hands and legs. Beams of energy blossomed as his fist intent became increasingly terrifying. Of course, this consumed a great deal of energy. He exerted all his strength and utilized his most powerful fist seals. He exerted 120% of his strength to fight against his opponent. Every time, a large amount of energy would be drained from his body. Normally, he wouldn't do this because he had encountered the powerful sea god tiger. The only fortunate thing was that he could circulate his breathing technique and merge it with the drifting energy between the heaven and earth. This allowed him to replenish his physical needs in the shortest time possible. Of course, it was still a bit risky. There were always signs that he couldn't make ends meet. "If you can't kill me, I'll send you to your grave," Chu Feng shouted. He raised his fists and smashed them forward. In truth, the combination of the demon flood dragon fist and demon ox fist had become increasingly terrifying. The spiral energy and vibrational energy would explode from time to time. In the distance, both the marine race and land life forms were moved. Chu Feng's tyrannical fist intent had suppressed and even suppressed the sea god tiger. This was simply too astonishing. "Good kill. Destroy this tiger cub." The black yak and the others shouted in the distance. They were retreating to leave this area. Ao, the sea god tiger, roared. He borrowed the momentum of his clash with Chu Feng to rush towards a certain direction. He wanted to kill the yellow cattle, the old grandmaster, and the others. He was still paying attention to these people even at this stage. He didn't want them to escape and wanted to kill them all. The sea god tiger was very proud. He believed that the Mastiff King, the 8 Visions Temple Master, and the old Grandmaster were all saved by Chu Feng from the Octopus King. He wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. "Get lost," the black yak shouted as he waved the Buddhist staff with all his might. He was purposely provoking the sea god tiger. He should have retreated far away long ago, but he was unwilling to give the sea god tiger a taste of his own medicine. The ground crumbled and the mountain peaks cracked. The might of this Buddhist staff was simply too ferocious. A gigantic golden arhat appeared in the air, illuminated by Buddhist radiance as he chanted scriptures and attacked the sea god tiger. Roar! The sea god tiger's roar shook the heaven and earth as he opened his mouth. Even the mountains trembled, and many kings couldn't withstand it. Their eardrums were almost destroyed by the sound. A weapon flew out from the sea god tiger's wings. It was activated by the sea god tiger and enlarged. It was a golden dagger which blocked the Buddhist scriptures and boundless energy. However, the Buddhist staff was extremely ferocious. It forced the sea god tiger back and sent the golden dagger flying. The dagger was a great killing weapon capable of destroying a peerless king-level expert. However, it was restrained by the Buddhist staff. The sea god tiger's eyes were cold, but there was nothing he could do. "Go!" Chu Feng shouted from midair. He told the black yak and the others not to delay and to leave as soon as possible. That was because the azure calabash was becoming more and more dangerous. It seemed like it was about to explode. At this time, not only were the creatures on the continent retreating, but even the marine race couldn't care less about their encirclement. Many people were fleeing madly. Of course, that madman Luo Tian hadn't left yet. He was attacking the calabash in a frenzy and had offended all the marine race beings. They wanted nothing more than to eat him alive. "Sea God Tiger, get over here," Chu Feng shouted. He had already arrived and wanted to drag the sea god tiger and the octopus king into a decisive battle. Neither of them was as fast as him. If the azure calabash were to explode, he would be able to escape faster than them. The sea god tiger was furious. He was very crazy and had a strong killing nature. The primordial ferocious tiger specialized in killing. This was a factor hidden in his bloodline. However, this human was even crazier than him. He had taken the initiative to attack. "You're courting death." The sea god tiger roared furiously. The densely packed golden scales on his body opened up and shot out tens of thousands of light beams. He pounced over with a boom and was ready to fight to the death with Chu Feng. The octopus king originally had the intention to retreat, but now his eyes flickered with ominous glints. He felt that this was a good opportunity to kill Chu Feng. With the sea god tiger at the front, he could find an opportunity to kill Chu Feng. That was because he felt that this human was too great of a threat. It was better to eliminate him as soon as possible. "Who do you think you are to provoke the two of us? We'll destroy you today," the octopus king said coldly. He then transmitted a message to the sea god tiger. "Kill him, don't let him go." Chapter 299. Impudent. You can't overturn the heavens. The 3-meter-tall octopus king moved his 8 arms and charged toward Chu Feng. His 8 palms were glowing as he attacked with all his might. Thump! Mountain rocks were blasted apart, and the ground was split apart. His strength was extremely great. His 8 arms were glowing and surging with energy akin to thunder. Chu Feng circulated the golden bell canopy to resist the attack, while the bell outside his body rumbled. He watched as the black yak and the others disappeared over the horizon. He no longer had any worries because he possessed the divine feat. It would be easy for him to leave if he wanted to. Roar! The sea god tiger's fine golden scales opened and closed, emitting beams of light that shot into the sky. He had entered an ineffable state and, after accumulating power for a moment, dived down from the sky. "Human die." The sea god tiger's words were concise. He only had one goal in staying behind, and that was to kill Chu Feng and not let him leave this space alive. Otherwise, he would have left long ago. The azure calabash was becoming increasingly dangerous, and he knew he couldn't stay here for long. At this time, the sea god tiger was different from before. His scales were actually emitting clanging sounds, and the bones in his body were rumbling like thunder. The tiger's bones trembled, and his scales clanged as his energy surged. The clouds came from the dragon and the wind from the tiger. At this moment, a golden hurricane appeared around his body and swept toward the mountain ridge. Boom! A mountain peak was swept up and exploded in midair. Chu Feng was astonished. He hadn't even displayed his might yet, but the sea god tiger had already gone crazy. He was going to use his strongest power to fight with his life on the line. One could see a blurry image of a tiger behind the sea god tiger. It was moving along with him and emitting a bitter, baleful aura which surged into the sky. What was going on? Chu Feng was increasingly astonished. "My race has the palm of slaughter. Hand over your life." The sea god tiger roared with peerless ferocity. The palm of slaughter of the primordial ferocious tiger was on par with the vermilion bird and the true dragon. This was a legend many people knew about, but no one took it seriously. But now the sea god tiger was truly using this power. A pair of giant claws pounced down and pierced through the golden bell outside Chu Feng's body. It was peerlessly tyrannical and filled with torrential killing intent. You can be proud of yourself. You actually forced me to use the life-killing technique. However, you will also die without a burial. The pair of tiger claws stirred the void, and in an instant, a hurricane accompanied by energy drowned the place where Chu Feng was. Most importantly, a phantom leapt up from behind the sea god tiger's back. It was precisely that terrifying, baleful aura from before. It had taken the form of a tiger and pounced into the hurricane to kill Chu Feng. "Scram!" Chu Feng shouted. He sensed danger. The demon flood dragon fist in his left hand and the demon ox fist in his right intertwined, and black light shone brightly. Within his fist, two true forms also flew out. One was a black flood dragon, the other was a black, archaic barbaric ox. Moreover, the two of them merged together, attacking within the hurricane, resisting the tiger fiend. Bang, bang, bang. The hurricane was torn apart and scattered. In addition, the black flood dragon and immemorial barbaric ox were merging, tangling together, about to turn into a vicious beast. Not only did the fist imprint merge, the true fist intent true form also began to merge. This was the true essence of merging two fist arts into one. Following which, Chu Feng's fists merged the demon flood dragon fist and the demon ox fist together, causing his strength to increase explosively. Crack! Within a short period of time, his fist imprint glowed with black light. As it smashed forward, even the sea god tiger was astonished. However, he had also displayed the second move of his great killing technique. His body tilted slightly and slashed down with his terrifying wings. At this time, the energy in his body was boiling and spreading towards his wings. He concentrated all of his strength to strengthen the pair of golden wings. At this moment, the sea god tiger's wings were resplendent like the sun. They were even more dazzling than a heavenly blade as they slashed over. Chu Feng felt an intense pain in his fist. It felt as though it was about to be cut apart. However, after merging the fist intent and true forms into one, his current fist art had advanced to a new level. His energy had increased explosively, and he suppressed the killing blow of the wings and blasted them away. If it were before, he might have been in danger. The sea god tiger's wings were very odd. They were able to mobilize and concentrate all of his energy to become indestructible. They could easily cleave apart mountains and kill kings with 6 severed shackles. This was a type of ultimate killing technique. Clang, clang, clang like a metallic collision. The sea god tiger's wings were smashed by Chu Feng until they dimmed down. The sea god tiger roared and flew back. How hateful! The sea god tiger was furious. He was certain that his strength had increased by a large margin and that he should be able to kill his opponent. However, he hadn't expected Chu Feng's fist art to also increase in power. Only in battle can one comprehend the true meaning of fist arts. Chu Feng was enlightened. Previously, he felt that he had already merged the demon flood dragon fist and demon ox fist into one. Only during this life and death battle did he realize that it was only a fusion in form. Only now did he take a step forward and comprehend the fist intent. Only when the true forms had returned to one would it be considered a sublimation and a successful fusion. Kill! As the sea god tiger flew out diagonally, that tiger tail lashed out. The entire golden tail was covered in dense scales, and it was powerful and powerful. The air exploded as it swung back and forth, producing a deafening sound akin to a thunderclap. Most importantly, there were mysterious and unfathomable runes on the tail. They seemed like tadpole characters, but they also seemed like a primordial divine language. This caused the entire tail to emit a baleful aura. Chu Feng was sure that this sea god tiger had grasped a mysterious inheritance. This was definitely an extraordinary ultimate killing technique. Fortunately, he had comprehended the fist intent and was able to resist it calmly. His hands formed fist seals, and his one and only true form appeared. It was as berserk as a raging bull and could also soar into the 9 heavens like a flood dragon. Just like his current fist art, it lacked some craftsmanship and gained a type of true meaning of freedom. It was even more powerful now. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Feng's fist smashed down on the sea god tiger's tail. The spiraling force and vibrational force worked together to tear the tail apart from the outside and explode from the inside. This caused the sea god tiger great pain. That talismanic rune-covered tail actually seeped out traces of blood. Some of the golden scales had fallen off and were drenched in blood. This caused the sea god tiger to feel great pain. He rushed into the sky with a loud roar and flapped his wings, producing strong winds. The sea god tiger was enraged. His killing technique had actually been broken by someone so calmly. Again, Chu Feng shouted at him. He felt that his current state was very good and that it was very suitable for him to further comprehend the fist arts he had grasped. Swoosh! He suddenly shifted his body to the side and evaded dozens of arrows. Not far away, the Octopus King was actually drawing his bow. He had too many arms, and his movements were extremely fast. Arrows capable of killing king-level entities flew over one after another. I can also use you to practice my fist arts. Chu Feng rushed over, and the golden bell canopy appeared once again. However, this time, he boldly tried to fuse the Demon Flood Dragon Fist true form into the Xingyi 12 true forms, following which he fused the Demon Ox Fist into it and began to evolve it. Clang! At this moment, the golden bell canopy outside his body was somewhat different. It was still mainly golden in color, but there were some black patterns on it. They were faintly discernible black flood dragons and jet black raging bulls, following which the golden and black lights burst forth and turned into a purplish gold color where they connected. The large bell seemed to have become more solid and condensed. It actually possessed a spiritual attack effect when swung. Kill! Chu Feng pounced toward the Octopus King. With his speed exceeding 5 times the speed of sound, he could naturally catch up to this sea beast and clash fiercely. As expected, the mutated bell was more solid, and the sound it produced could penetrate one's physical body and attack one's spirit. Is this the spiritual attack brought about by the Demon Ox Roar and the Demon Flood Dragon Roar? Chu Feng was astonished. He naturally knew the wondrous effects of the two fist arts. However, he didn't expect that this kind of attack could also be added to the Xingyi Golden Bell canopy. The Octopus King was very agitated. The sound that penetrated his mind was making him dizzy, and his blood and qi were churning. It was extremely uncomfortable. If it were any other king-level entity, they might have already died of a grudge. He was very strong. This kind of sound wave couldn't kill him, but it could cause him some trouble. The next moment, Chu Feng evolved once again. He displayed a number of Xingyi true forms, but he didn't change them. His movements and true forms were standard, containing all kinds of transformations as they condensed onto the golden bell canopy. However, he switched his breathing technique to the one Yellow Ox had taught him. It could be said that he was very relaxed at the moment. After truly merging the Demon Flood Dragon Fists and Demon Ox Fists, there was a kind of true meaning of freedom. Even his mental state was somewhat different. It was as if he was in a state of Tao comprehension and dared to try all kinds of things. Can I really activate it? Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. He didn't dare to try it before, because he was worried that he would be tormented to death if he made a mistake. Now, he found that there was no big problem. Clang! The large bell rumbled, bringing with it a hazy mist like the primal chaos. He felt an indescribable change after activating it with the supreme breathing technique taught by Yellow Cattle. This bell was indestructible and imprinted with several true forms that were even more vivid and lifelike. The mist lingered about like the primal chaos bell shaking. The Octopus King couldn't help but cry out as blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He had actually been injured by the bell. Good. Chu Feng was delighted as he charged forward with a fierce attack. In the sky, the sea god Tiger revealed an astonished expression. Gazing from afar, Chu Feng was like a primal chaos bell pressing down on the Octopus King. The Octopus King had no way to retaliate, even with all 8 of his arms. The Octopus King's arms smashed onto the bell of primal chaos. Instead, the space between his thumb and forefinger was injured and dripping with blood. Chu Feng was overjoyed because his attempt this time was extremely successful, but his smile froze very soon. The bell of primal chaos was no longer stable, and cracks had begun to appear from within. Moreover, it was actually about to explode. Little octopus meatball, accept your death. Chu Feng shouted to provoke the Octopus King. He charged forward with all his might and rammed the bell of primal chaos toward the Octopus King. Apparently, the Octopus King was in a state of violent rage. He would never feel good after being suppressed, especially when they were evenly matched just a while ago. But in the blink of an eye, the other party's fist intent had changed and caused him to suffer a great loss. Boom! He didn't believe in heresy and went all out this time. His 8 arms trembled, and his 8 fists smashed toward the bell. He simply couldn't break it. This bell was condensed from energy and emitted frighteningly powerful fluctuations. At this moment, Chu Feng's figure crouched down and forcefully broke free from this energy bell. He directly gave up and cut off his connection with this energy. Boom! A great explosion took place in this place. The bell of primal chaos exploded, and the Octopus King screamed miserably. His body was in tatters with 6 of his 8 arms broken and half of his body pierced through. It all happened too suddenly. From the beginning of the battle, Chu Feng had used the golden bell barrier to protect his body. Now he had actually broken free. This was simply destroying his own Great Wall. In truth, Chu Feng didn't feel good either. He felt a sense of emptiness in his body. He had squandered a large amount of his physical energy in one go, causing his body to sway. But relatively speaking, the enemy was in an even more miserable state. He was almost torn apart on the spot. The bell of primal chaos was very powerful, but it was unstable and needed to be improved. Chu Feng had no choice but to give up midway and kill the enemy in passing. However, he saw the potential of the bell of primal chaos. He could continue developing it by adding the Xingyi Fist, the Demon Ox Fist, and the Demon Flood Dragon Fist. Then, he could activate it with the Supreme Breathing Technique to manifest the Bell of Primal Chaos. Ah, go to hell! The Octopus King howled. He waved a silver conch in his hand, which emitted terrifying ripples and whining sounds. It was as if he was going to grind away at the enemy's spirit. This was a great killing weapon he had brought from the bottom of the sea. Previously, it had caused great trouble to the experts on the continent. Chu Feng shot out the golden Arhut talisman without the slightest hesitation. It began to glow and gather the drifting energy between the heaven and earth. A tempest arose, and then it exploded with a loud bang. Boom! The entire area was submerged in energy and began to boil. The sea god tiger was in midair. He was about to dive down at first, but he immediately soared up after seeing the situation. He didn't dare to go down. When the area calmed down, the Octopus King's expression was unsightly. The conch in his hand had been torn to pieces and destroyed. Of course, Chu Feng's golden Arhut talisman had also been burnt to ashes and completely disappeared. How hateful! The Octopus King's heart was dripping blood. A priceless weapon had been lost just like that. He was extremely upset. Chu Feng couldn't help but sigh. The golden Arhut lineage of the ancient evolved beings was indeed terrifying. Even the crude products they left behind were so powerful. It was just a piece of paper, yet it was enough to destroy a top-grade king-level entity. Swoosh! Chu Feng pounced forward. His movements were sharp and his reactions were swift. The current Octopus King was in a miserable state. He had been gravely injured by the large bell and was left with only 2 arms. Half of his body was already in tatters. Roar! The sea god tiger swooped down from the sky in a bid to stop the enemy. The Octopus King was also frantically resisting. He knew his condition was terrible and that he might be killed. He needed to hold on for a while. However, Chu Feng was simply too fast. He had surpassed 5 times the speed of sound and arrived directly. He grabbed the wounded Octopus King and tore him apart. With a poof, the Octopus King was split into 2 halves and was flung away by Chu Feng. The 2 halves landed in the distance and turned into 2 giant halves with all kinds of juices gushing out. The Octopus King, one of the marine race leaders who had attacked Mount Longhu, had been killed by Chu Feng. Chapter 300. A top-grade king had been massacred. His mountainous corpse lay on the ground, and the Octopus King was dead. In the sky, the sea god tiger's eyes were sharp. He roared as golden ripples spread out from his mouth. Loud bangs rang out as they came into contact with the mountain peaks below. Some of the cliffs cracked and even exploded. This was the tiger roar sound wave art. He was somewhat furious. 2 experts were targeting Chu Feng, but one of them had been killed by him. If news of this got out, it would only serve as a foil to show how powerful this human was. To the sea god tiger, this was a stain on his record. It was an extremely dishonorable battle record that he could hardly accept. Clang, clang, clang. The sea god tiger's body was engulfed in raging flames, following which a piece of scale fell off and floated in the air. It emitted a golden radiance and then shot down. Chu Feng didn't pay much attention at first. Wasn't it just a scale? He could just shatter it. But his expression soon changed. There were traces of blood on this scale, which formed strange patterns. Those were some kind of mysterious runes. Boom! After the scale shot down, a huge explosion occurred when Chu Feng brandished his fist. Logical words. Chu Feng was astonished. The blood-colored patterns on the scale were words containing natural energy. They could draw upon the energy of the heaven and earth and explode in this place. His fist was somewhat sore, and there were even traces of blood on it. One could see just how terrifying the collision and explosion just now was. It contained such dense energy. "Human, I must kill you." The sea god tiger's eyes were cold as he roared from above. He was almost going crazy because more scales had fallen off his body. He shot out 7 or 8 scales in one go. All of them were covered in blood-colored patterns. They glowed and interweaved with one another, forming a terrifying energy tempest. Boom! This time, 7 or 8 scales flew over at lightning speed. They linked up with the natural energy of the heaven and earth and triggered a huge tempest. With a loud bang, the mountain peak Chu Feng was standing on was directly shattered. He rushed out amidst the dust and arrived at another mountainous region. These scales possessed great destructive power. Chu Feng believed that this sea god tiger's bloodline was extraordinary. That was because ordinary birds and beasts would find it difficult to revert to this degree. He had obtained the information hidden in his ancestors' blood. "You can't leave. Your head will be my trophy." The sea god tiger's voice was very cold. He flapped his wings rapidly as he followed Chu Feng. It wholeheartedly wanted to kill this opponent and wash away the stain on its body. Ever since it was born, there had never been an opponent it could not kill. "Sick cat, do you want to run around naked? Take off all your scales. Who are you trying to impress by acting like a hooligan here?" Chu Feng shouted. "Roar." The tiger's roar shook the sky. At the same time, blood clouds surged in the distance, and the green gourd shook violently. Near the mouth of the gourd, 5-colored light began to gush out, accompanied by the sound of iron chains. Vaguely, one could see a 5-colored light wrapping around a woman, struggling to break free from the mouth of the gourd. However, colorful metal chains were wrapped around her body, restraining her and suppressing her at the mouth of the gourd. It was extremely hazy and indistinct. 5-colored light surged, making that region more and more strange. As for the surroundings, blood energy overflowed. At this moment, the marine human Luo Tian finally stopped attacking and jumped down from the gourd. He was filled with unwillingness, helplessness, and a bellyful of regret. He let out an angry roar and fled into the distance. This madman had finally stopped. He no longer dared to snatch the green lamp. That bronze lamp had risen into the air and left the range of the gourd's mouth. It sprinkled down specks of light, which enshrouded the mouth of the gourd. It seemed to be suppressing the emergence of an ancient, evolved being. Even that crazy marine human had fled, but the sea god tiger didn't stop. He wanted to kill Chu Feng at the final juncture. Chi, chi, chi. Tens of densely packed golden scales shot out and enveloped Chu Feng. "It's over," the sea god tiger roared. His voice was so loud that it reverberated for hundreds of kilometers and caused the mountains to tremble. Clang! Chu Feng circulated his mysterious breathing technique and unleashed the Xingyi fist. He extended his true forms and merged them into the demon ox and demon flood dragon fists. This complicated combination caused that misty bell to reappear. He was dodging and trying his best not to collide with the golden scales. If he couldn't evade, he would use the bell of primal chaos to block them. Many parts of the sea god tiger's body were drenched in blood. That was because the shedding of the scales was equivalent to injuring his own body. Chu Feng knew that the sea god tiger was going to fight him to the death. He was also going all out in preparation to meet this final enemy. He quietly picked up the diamond chakram. This was the only opponent he could throw out without fear of falling into the hands of the marine race. The group of sea beasts near the green calabash had all fled. Not a single one was left behind. I'll give you a chance. Become my servant. How about it? The sea god tiger said coldly as he charged down and looked down at Chu Feng. Help the tiger do evil? Chu Feng sneered. His eyes turned cold as he said, Come and accept your death. You don't know how to cherish opportunities. You can die now. The sea god tiger's eyes were cold and his smile was sinister. His entire body was glowing with golden light. There was a dagger in his claws, which suddenly lit up like a blazing flame. Boom! During this short period of time, energy surged up in the sky and poured down in torrents like a volcanic eruption. Glaring golden radiance drowned out the entire mountainous region. The source of everything was that golden dagger. Its baleful aura surged into the sky, as if it was about to tear the heaven and earth apart. One could see a hazy giant tiger emerge from the golden dagger. Its feet seemed to be stepping on the starry skies as it roared and pounced toward Chu Feng. The sea god tiger had used his ultimate weapon. He couldn't wait any longer and wanted to end this battle as soon as possible to kill Chu Feng. That was because the green calabash was becoming increasingly dangerous. Blood energy pervaded the air and enveloped an area of several kilometers. That ancient evolved being was about to escape. This made everyone's hearts palpitate. Human, you dare fight me with your abilities? I can kill you with a raise of my hand. Die. The sea god tiger roared. He had seen Chu Feng's golden Arhut talisman used up and didn't believe he had any more of such ancient artifacts. Now was the time to strike like a thunderbolt and reap his life. Strands of divine light appeared in Chu Feng's eyes. His physical energy was restrained as he charged into the sky with the diamond chakram in his right hand. Boom! The golden dagger came crashing down. Boundless energy boiled as it smashed towards Chu Feng. It was like a golden mountain, but also like a boundless ocean as it slapped down. Chu Feng was taking a risk. He faced the golden ocean with the diamond chakram in one hand and drew in the energy waves. This ultimate trash weapon could absorb energy and increase its weight. This kind of change was mysterious and puzzling. In the past, Chu Feng would pour energy into the chakram and throw it to kill his opponents. Now, he was taking a risk by drawing in the enemy's energy and pouring it into the diamond chakram. Immediately, the shiny bracelet became snow white and resplendent. Buzz! The diamond chakram's weight rose sharply. In the blink of an eye, it had reached tens of thousands of kilograms and was still increasing. This process was fairly dangerous because Chu Feng was drawing in the opponent's energy with the diamond chakram. A moment of carelessness, and he would be blasted to death. This required a high level of control over energy. Of course, the most important factor was the uniqueness of this ultimate trash weapon. The sea god tiger was astonished. At first, he thought he could kill this human easily. Who would have thought the terrifying golden energy released by the golden dagger would be absorbed by the snow-white bracelet? At this time, Chu Feng was suffering from a violent impact. It was impossible for all the energy to be drawn in by the diamond chakram, and there were still large golden waves crashing down. But comparatively speaking, it was much weaker. Even though blood was seeping out from the corner of his mouth and his body was swaying violently, he still managed to endure it. Kill! Chu Feng roared. He could feel the energy released by the golden dagger receding, and the tiger phantom had long since disappeared. Apparently, it was running out of energy. He swung the diamond chakram with all his might and hurled it out. Even Chu Feng could clearly tell how heavy the diamond chakram was. In any case, it was much heavier than usual, and it was strenuous for him to hurl it out. In order to maintain its extreme speed, he had exerted all his strength to the point where his arms were aching. He increasingly felt that this bracelet was extremely odd and special. It couldn't be considered trash at all. Boom! A huge explosion took place in the sky. The explosive power of this bracelet was simply too terrifying. The sea god tiger had long since realized something was amiss. He turned around and fled, but the diamond chakram was simply too fast and closed in the blink of an eye. Chi, 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 golden scales fell off the sea god tiger's body and shot toward the diamond chakram in a bid to block it. He didn't dare use the dagger because he was afraid that it would be smashed apart by the terrifying bracelet. Dozens of blood-veined scales lit up and then exploded. However, they couldn't stop the diamond chakram because the energy contained within was too terrifying. This was especially true since it was shockingly heavy. After being struck by Chu Feng at full force, the momentum was world-shaking. Chu Feng was certain that even if a towering mountain were to block his path, it would still be crushed if struck by the diamond chakram. The sea god tiger made use of the shooting scales to shift his body sideways in a bid to evade. Chu Feng also leapt high into the sky and chased after the diamond chakram. He exerted all his spiritual energy to gently nudge the diamond chakram from afar. This weapon was simply too heavy, and he had no way of controlling it completely. However, he could now fine-tune it and change its direction. Boom! The void exploded as the diamond chakram, shrouded in torrential radiance, pressed down on the sea god tiger's body and had already come into contact with his tail fur. Clang! The sea god tiger was furious. He used his spiritual energy to shoot out the golden dagger to block this great killing weapon. Crack! The diamond chakram was indeed stopped, but the golden dagger was no longer protected by energy. It became very dim and finally broke. The sea god tiger was furious. A great killing weapon that he could use was destroyed just like that. This caused him great pain, especially since the danger wasn't over yet. The diamond chakram's momentum was too ferocious. It was only slightly obstructed and continued to spin until it came into contact with his tail. It was simply impossible to evade and had long since closed in. Bang! He swung his tail with all his might and struck the diamond chakram. In the end, a large section of his tail was snapped off with a puff sound. It broke off in midair and drenched in fresh blood. The scales, dagger, and tail were all powerful weapons. However, they were all damaged at the moment. After 3 collisions, the diamond chakram finally slowed down and changed its direction. Of course, it was still spinning at an extremely fast speed. Puffed. The diamond chakram came into contact with the sea god tiger's leg and directly shook off the scales. It then tore off a large piece of flesh so deep that the bone could be seen. Only then did the chakram brush past the tiger. The sea god tiger was furious. He had suffered serious injuries. His tail had been broken, and he had lost several hundred kilograms of flesh. This was not only painful, but also humiliating. Chu Feng landed on the ground after making some minor adjustments to the diamond chakram. At this moment, he was chasing after the tiger with all his might to retrieve the diamond chakram. The sea god tiger's eyes were frighteningly cold. He roared furiously as he gave chase. He also wanted to catch that bracelet and snatch it away. Boom! The terrain here was vast and lacked mountains to obstruct him. Chu Feng overtook the sea god tiger at 5.5 times the speed of sound and charged into the dense forest. He had already discovered the diamond chakram after spreading out his powerful spiritual energy. The sea god tiger wasn't slow either. He also arrived rapidly, but was still one step too late. He roared furiously and turned around to run away, afraid that he would suffer another blow. Chu Feng estimated the distance between him and the sea god tiger with the shiny bracelet in hand. It was a bit far, and he was worried that he wouldn't be able to hit the tiger. The sea god tiger decisively retreated and charged toward the edge of the space. He didn't dare delay any longer because he had been gravely injured, but also because the lady in the azure calabash had broken the first divine gold chain. Chu Feng found that piece of tiger leg meat that weighed several hundred kilograms and that broken tiger tail. He also broke into a mad dash and chased after the sea god tiger. Sick cat without a tail, where do you think you're going? One man and one tiger ran frantically toward the edge of the space. Clang! Behind them, the lady in the azure calabash was glowing with multicolored radiance. The second chain on her body was pulled taut and then broken. Chapter 301. You sick cat without a tail. Where do you think you're going? Chu Feng shouted incessantly along the way. This angered the sea god tiger so much that he wanted to turn back and fight to the death. He had never been bullied like this before. It was fine that he was defeated, but the other party was unforgiving. He kept shouting along the way as if he was afraid the whole world wouldn't know. Fortunately, everyone else had retreated and only the two of them were left behind. Otherwise, he would really want to find a hole to hide in. It was too shameful. More and more mountains appeared along the way. Naturally, Chu Feng's path was blocked. He wasn't as fast as the sea god tiger in the sky and was gradually left behind. Sick cat, I'll give you a chance. Be my mount, and I'll bring you to taste the splendor of the world, Chu Feng shouted. F***CK. The sea god tiger was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He wanted nothing more than to kill Chu Feng on the spot. He couldn't help but curse out loud. Finally, the sea god tiger disappeared without a trace. Chu Feng felt helpless. Since he couldn't fly, he had no choice but to travel on foot. The sea god tiger rode on the wind and lightning like a supersonic flying machine. He crossed the vast sky and arrived at the edge of this space. There, he descended along the gourd vines and successfully escaped. The space below wasn't very big. Many marine race members were still gathered here and hadn't left. The sea god tiger's tail. Some of the sea beasts were shocked out of their wits. That was because the sea god tiger was simply too powerful. He was invincible among them. In the end, he had suffered such heavy injuries. Many of his scales had fallen off and his golden glow had dimmed. A large chunk of flesh was missing from his hind legs and even his tail was broken. Could it be that the ancient evolved being in the azure calabash has escaped? Someone couldn't help but ask. They thought the sea god tiger had encountered an ancient great demon. Let's go. The others panicked after hearing this and wanted to rush out immediately. Where's the octopus king? Someone asked. The sea god tiger's expression was unsightly. He didn't say a single word and charged straight out of the space. The others seemed to have realized something after seeing this, and their expressions changed. He lost to that human. They didn't delay and charged out together. There was no need to linger since important characters like Luo Tian and the sea god tiger had come out. A group of people followed the energy tunnel and rushed out of the dilapidated Taoist temple. A group of experts from the continent had already come out. They stood not far away, their killing intent surging. Oh my God, where's your tail? In the distance, the Manchurian tiger was making a big fuss after seeing the sea god tiger drenched in blood and missing his tail. I'll kill you. The sea god tiger glared and was about to charge over. An expert of the marine race immediately pulled it back, not allowing it to act rashly. That was because a group of continental experts had gathered together, and they had a common enemy. They had always wanted to take revenge. Now, the group of super experts on the continent had more or less recovered. With the help of the demon refining fruit, they were full of vigor. Moreover, there had been a conflict just now. The sea race had experienced the might of the Buddhist staff, and it was simply undefeatable. Fortunately, the sea race had more powerful weapons, or else they would have suffered a great loss. Where's Chu Feng? The black yak shouted. They were somewhat worried. He's dead, the sea god tiger said furiously. It felt suffocated. Today's experience was terrible, and it had a belly full of anger. There were many people at the base of Mount Longhu. Although they had retreated far away, they were still astonished to hear these words. The two oxen glared and were about to wave their staffs. They didn't quite believe that Chu Feng had died in battle. They knew he possessed extreme speed and could still escape even if he couldn't win. Sick cat, my mount, where are you running to? It was at this time that a voice came from the dilapidated Taoist temple. Chu Feng had killed his way out. The marine race was immediately thrown into disarray. They simply couldn't believe what they were seeing. This human was simply too ferocious. What was he carrying in his hand? It was a tiger tail covered in dense scales. As for the base of the mountain, it was boiling over. The sea god tiger had been defeated. The news spread out immediately. Many people in the distance were taking pictures and finding it difficult to suppress their excitement. That was because today's events had been full of twists and turns. Previously, everyone thought the Wudong Grandmaster and the others had died in battle. Who would have thought they would come out alive? And a peerless expert like the sea god tiger had actually been defeated by Chu Feng and had one of his tails chopped off. This was definitely a world-shaking event. "Where's the Octopus King?" Someone from the marine race shouted, wanting to verify it. "I killed him," Chu Feng said coldly. He looked up at the sky and felt something was amiss. Why was it snowing again? The snowflakes weren't big, but they fluttered down. In the distance, a group of marine race experts was furious, but also incomparably apprehensive. Even a peerless expert like the Octopus King had been destroyed in the mysterious space of Mount Longhu. The group was shaken after seeing the tiger tail in Chu Feng's hand. With a swoosh, Yellow Cattle and the others rushed over with their staffs in hand. They were afraid that Chu Feng would suffer a loss. After all, there were many marine race troops around him. "Have you seen the Hollow Jade Temple Master?" Chu Feng asked in a low voice. That was because he hadn't seen the Hollow Jade Temple Master, even after looking into the crowd. The Black Yak replied, "The Peacock King has already escaped. I wanted to give him a blow with my staff, but in the end, he flew away. I still haven't seen the Hollow Jade Temple Master." The Eight Visions Temple Master came over and told Chu Feng that the Hollow Jade Temple Master was gravely injured and his heart had almost been torn apart. He probably hadn't come out yet. In truth, it wasn't just the Hollow Jade Temple Master who hadn't come out. There were also a number of experts with 6 severed shackles who hadn't appeared. It was confirmed that they had died in battle. Chu Feng contacted Lu Tong and asked if there was any news of the Hollow Jade Temple Master. In the end, the answer he received was no. "I'll go find him," Chu Feng said. If he wanted to return the favor, he had to do it thoroughly. He had saved many people today, and it could be said that the escape of the group of experts was related to him. At this time, the marine race experts were no longer in the mood to fight. They were also contacting the outside world and seemed to have received a shocking piece of news. Their expressions changed, and they couldn't help but glance toward the sea. There's been a huge change in the sea. Very soon, the continent received the news. Even the people of Mount Longhu knew about it. "Let's go." The sea god tiger was the first to rush out. Although he was gravely injured, his speed was still extremely fast as he rushed into the distance. The other marine race experts also rushed down Mount Longhu. They couldn't wait to leave the continent. Chu Feng and the others didn't stop them. That was because the marine race still held the advantage in numbers and possessed great killing weapons. If they were to fight to the death, it would be difficult to say who was stronger and who was weaker. The most important thing was that everyone was mentally exhausted after such a long battle. The so-called dragon's spirit and tiger's ferocity were all forcefully maintained. Chu Feng asked everyone about the Hollow Jade Temple Master. He wanted to understand the situation clearly before entering the depths of the space. "It's too dangerous." Yellow Cattle stopped him. However, Chu Feng felt that there was still time. The lady within the azure calabash would have to spend quite a bit of effort to break free. In the end, Yellow Cattle entered the space with him once again. They could hear violent explosions from afar and see thunder and lightning flashing in the depths of the space. "We have to be quick. She's about to break free and has triggered a restriction. This woman is extremely powerful," Yellow Cattle said in a deep voice. "You go back. I'll look for her myself." Chu Feng dismissed him. Yellow Cattle didn't force him. He knew Chu Feng was faster and had only come here to confirm when the lady would break free. Chu Feng followed the clues provided by the others and followed them all the way to the Hollow Jade Temple Master's location. In the end, he found him collapsed in a mountainous region and was quite weak. That was because the Hollow Jade Temple Master's heart had been shattered in half and dozens of bones were broken. Even his forehead had almost been split open. His injuries were simply too severe. At this time, he had fallen unconscious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed here and refused to leave. In truth, Chu Feng also saw a number of experts along the way. They were all terrestrial life forms, but all of them were dead. They had long since severed their sixth shackle and were killed in this space. In short, both the marine race and the continent didn't have it easy this time. A number of experts had died on both sides. The marine race's losses were related to Chu Feng because he had killed more. Chu Feng broke open the stone fruit and stuffed a piece into the hollow jade temple master's mouth. He then carried him on his back and left. There was no time left. A series of explosions arrived in the distance. That lady was a peerless beauty. She was surrounded by a dense multicolored mist as the divine gold chains binding her body broke one after another. Above her head, lightning struck down one after the other. In the end, she was able to resist all of them. Lightning couldn't kill her. Chu Feng turned back and was shaken. He saw that the dense lightning was pouring down like a torrential downpour towards the mouth of the calabash. The lady was almost drowned within, but she was still alive. Multicolored light circulated around her as though she possessed an immortal body. She had been suppressed for countless years, and yet she didn't die in the demon refinement grounds. This was enough to explain the situation. Chu Feng didn't dare stay any longer and ran as fast as he could. Boom! A loud explosion came from behind. The azure calabash was full of cracks and was about to explode. Run! At this time, the hollow jade temple master came to his senses. He glanced back and revealed a shocked expression. As Chu Feng fled along the calabash vines, he felt the earth and mountains shake behind him. The sound of thunder had disappeared, and the azure calabash had completely exploded. Needless to say, that ancient evolved being had escaped. Boom! Chu Feng rushed out of the space below with the greatest speed. He ran along the energy passage out of the small Taoist temple and shouted at everyone, "Run!" In the blink of an eye, Yellow Cattle, Manchurian Tiger, and the others rushed down Mount Longhu. As for the other continental experts, they were already waiting at the foot of the mountain and were also retreating. Run! Meanwhile, the ordinary mutants and beast races also realized that a calamity was about to befall them and fled with all their might. Go! Chu Feng carried the hollow jade temple master on his back as he called out to the top-grade experts and ran into the distance. In the blink of an eye, Mount Longhu shook violently as though it was about to be overturned. Rocks tumbled down as the mountain emitted a blinding light. A girl with divine golden chains stepped out from the small Taoist temple. She was spotless and as white as jade, exuding a transcendent aura. Roar! At this moment, the entire Mount Longhu was trembling, accompanied by the cries of dragons and tigers. A golden mushroom cloud rushed up from the summit, and a terrifying aura blotted out the sun. In the distance, Chu Feng, the hollow jade temple master, the golden-winged Great Peng, and many other top-grade experts turned around. They were all apprehensive after seeing this scene. They knew that the realm of that person on Mount Longhu was too high. Boom! The entire Mount Longhu swayed and trembled thrice. The surface of the mountain was actually cracking and about to explode. One had to know that this was the ancestral court of Taoism, also known as the Tao capital. Its origins were too great, and the capital of a sect was actually about to be destroyed. On the summit, the golden mushroom cloud swept madly and transformed into a dragon and a tiger. They intersected and pounced towards the small Taoist temple to suppress it. Last time, a flying saucer had wreaked havoc here and was directly crushed by the mushroom cloud produced by the weapon buried under Mount Longhu. Now, this weapon was moving again to suppress and kill the ancient evolved beings who had just emerged. Boom! The dragon and tiger arrived. They approached the small Taoist temple and fiercely attacked. At this time, the peerless beauty stretched out a snow-white arm from the small Taoist temple. It was as fair as snow and didn't seem at all like it had been sealed for a long time. It was accompanied by a holy radiance and an auspicious aura. After the appearance of that lotus arm, the pressure caused the void to distort. She raised her white wrist, and gently flicked her finger. That delicate hand was sparkling and white. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of flowers bloomed on Mount Longhu. They rushed out from the previous ice and snow and were full of vitality. But when her finger fell, the flowers withered and the plants withered. In just a single breath, it was as if an entire spring and autumn had passed. The scene was both sacred and terrifying. She raised her slender hand, and with a light flick of her finger, an earth-shattering energy fluctuation erupted. The dragon and tiger that were charging at her were actually scattered by a single slender finger. How is this possible? Everyone was shaken, including the top-grade kings. All of them were dumbstruck and in disbelief. That golden mushroom cloud had transformed into a dragon and a tiger. It was the embodiment of the power of the legendary weapon buried under the mountain. It was also the manifestation of the Taoist capital's hidden resources. This place was named Mount Longhu, and the manifestation of a dragon and a tiger was enough to explain the problem. But spring and autumn had passed in the blink of an eye, and a period of time had passed. That woman was too mysterious and powerful to scatter the dragon and tiger. Following that, she took another step forward. Her calves were faintly discernible within her skirt. Although only below the knee was exposed, they were slender and flawless. They were as white as jade and were extremely beautiful. She wasn't wearing shoes, and her jade feet were perfect. They looked very delicate, but a light stomp on the mountainous ground caused the majestic Mount Longhu to rumble and sway. Countless cracks appeared as if it was about to collapse and explode. Boom! In the end, the mountain split apart and a weapon emerged. It was suffused with holy splendor and curled up with white mist. The mysterious object under the Taoist ancestral court had been forced out. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock. The woman's sparkling jade feet gently descended just to force out this weapon. Was she not afraid of being killed? Chapter 302. Who could suppress her? From her current performance, it could be seen that she had transcended the mortal world. Her status in the ancient times must have been transcendent and her strength exceedingly high. What kind of identity did she have thousands of years ago? The ancestral court of Taoism, Mount Longhu. There were too many secrets here. Some said that this place was adjacent to the immortal court and that one could ascend to the heavens from here. There were also people who said that this was a mythical capital city. Once one stepped inside, they would be able to find divinity and even see the evolved beings of ancient times. Mount Longhu split apart. The item was suffused with a hazy white mist, carrying with it an energy that caused all living beings to tremble. It overflowed with mushroom clouds and surged towards the small Taoist temple. Be it Chu Feng or the other experts at the scene, all of them were shaken. What kind of power was this? They clearly knew how terrifying such a mushroom cloud was. It could easily destroy an entire area and extinguish all life. It was even more terrifying than a nuclear weapon. And now, it had released so many of them one after another. It was simply horrifying. How could a cold weapon produce mushroom clouds like a nuclear weapon? In comparison, how much nuclear energy was there in the world? If it were to erupt, it would simply suppress the present age. There had never been a moment when everyone felt so insignificant. This ancient weapon was enough to destroy the world. Was this the method of the evolved beings? A cold weapon in their hands could grow with indescribable methods and reach such a terrifying level. The woman was transcendent. Her sleeves fluttered amidst the golden mushroom clouds. Her jade-like arms stretched out, sparkling and translucent. With a light tap of her hand, the sky was filled with golden lotuses that took root in the void. The entire Mount Longhu was filled with a faintly discernible sound. It sounded like a demonic saint was chanting sutras, but it also sounded like the prayers of the first people. It crossed time and space, traversed the ancient earth, and swept through the world of mortals. It was said that Buddha delivered all living beings from suffering, but now, everyone felt that the peerless beauty seemed to be able to purify the world and make everyone submit. She pointed out with a finger, and golden lotuses appeared in the void. They then transformed into 3,000 golden runes that transformed into ancient runes one after another. They seemed to be forged from metal and shone brilliantly as they enveloped the shattered Mount Longhu. The runes contracted and the chanting and prayers became increasingly divine. They were about to bind the weapon. The countless golden mushroom cloud shrank. When the lotus-like arm rose up, they seemed illusory and didn't explode. A slender, white finger gently pressed against the ancient weapon of Mount Longhu. All actions are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, or a shadow, like dew or like lightning. At this moment, everyone felt that it was unreal. Run! Yellow Cattle shouted. Even it was scared. It didn't know what kind of background this woman had or how powerful she was. It only felt that she was deep and immeasurable. It had to leave as soon as possible. In reality, everyone was only looking back as they fled. How could they dare to stop now? They swarmed in all directions like a swarm of bees. No one knew the outcome. They all fled. Chu Feng put the yellow cattle and the others into the pristine jade vase and ran for 3,000 kilometers in one go. He only stopped when he was far away from Jiangxi. After a while, a number of experts with 6 severed shackles finally caught up. Thank you, Brother Chu Feng. The Mastiff King cupped his fists. In human form, he was a middle-aged man with thick black hair and spirited eyes. He was still as heroic as ever. But upon closer inspection, he was mentally exhausted. The journey to Mount Longhu was extremely dangerous and dangerous. Without Chu Feng, he would have died there. Mastiff King, there's no need to be so polite. I'm indebted to you for taking care of me in the past. It's only right this time, Chu Feng said with a smile. Words cannot express my gratitude. The golden-winged Peng landed. Its entire body was golden as it nodded at Chu Feng. It was somewhat emotional. Just a while ago, it was looking down on the world and running amok in the east and west. It was difficult to find an opponent. Who would have thought that it would be ambushed by the marine race and almost die? Fortunately, Chu Feng came to its aid. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. And this young man's strength was far inferior to its own not long ago. His rise could be said to be too rapid. The group of people stepped forward to express their gratitude to Chu Feng. This trip to Mount Longhu was truly too dangerous. The hollow jade temple master's expression was complicated. He had been carried on the back of the 8 Visions temple master. His heart was seriously injured and couldn't recover even after eating the demon refinement fruit. Among everyone, his injuries were the most serious, and he had almost died. He patted Chu Feng's shoulder and sighed. I'm in the prime of my life, but after seeing you, I suddenly feel old. At this moment, he was actually somewhat desolate and depressed. This trip to Mount Longhu had dealt him a great blow. The 3 temple masters were known as peerless experts. 1 or 2 of them could rank among the top 10 experts of the Eastern continent, but they had almost been completely wiped out. Chu Feng consoled. The temple master was just careless and fell into an ambush. The marine race used a powerful weapon to launch a sneak attack. Otherwise, which one of you here isn't a hegemon of a region? If we really had a fight, one of you would have been enough to kill many experts of the marine race. Those who survived were all top-grade kings. Some of the continent's experts had died in that space without leaving behind their names. The world was vast, and there were many famed mountains. Many creatures had silently risen to prominence, but were still nameless. Some experts with 6 severed shackles had died at Mount Longhu. This was a great blow to the east. Who was it that leaked the secret and sided with the marine race? Chu Feng brought up old matters. This was also something everyone wanted to know. Unfortunately, after careful consideration, they still couldn't come to any conclusions. There were, however, a few suspicious targets who had all died in that space. Everyone, farewell. We'll meet again in the future. The 2 temple masters of the Mount Shu Sword Palace were the first to bid farewell. Before leaving, they made an appointment with Chu Feng, inviting him to Sichuan to exchange pointers with the imperial sword technique. The mountain tortoise of Mount Kongtong apologized to everyone. Its shell was engraved with the golden 8 trigrams, and its divine instincts were shockingly sharp. But this time, it had suffered a setback. The old tortoise admitted that it had long since sensed it, but had been careless. The various hegemons set out one after another. All of them were in a complicated mood. This trip to the Tao capital had taught them a profound lesson. Now, they wanted to go back to rest and think things over calmly. The impact of this incident was too great. Would the marine race launch a large-scale attack? After all, they had failed on the verge of success and suffered a great loss. Would that mysterious lady walk out of Mount Longhu? This question made everyone's hearts palpitate. With her strength, she could walk proudly in the world. Who could stop her? Everyone felt a headache when they thought of these questions. The group thus dispersed. The news of the battle at Mount Longhu immediately spread and shook the world. Not only was the East shaken, but even the West was shaken. Within that mysterious space, the experts of the land and sea had fought. The various kings had been ambushed, and their blood had dyed the Tao land red. The sea god tiger was unrivaled as he hunted down the heroes. And now, Chu Feng had appeared. Any one of these matters was explosive news. The world was in an uproar. Boss rose to prominence in this battle and established his position. The clairaudient Ouyang Qing sighed. It wasn't just him and Yi Qingru who were sighing in admiration. The others were also discussing this matter. He had surpassed gods in one battle. Chu Feng had arrived at the most crucial moment during the battle at Mount Longhu. He had slaughtered a group of marine race experts, killed the octopus king, and hunted down the sea god tiger. His accomplishments were simply too dazzling. After this battle, this person can be considered to have completely soared into the sky. He can now look down on the world. Xiong Kun, Hu Sheng, and the other beast race youths were also sighing. Chu Feng's strength was simply too astonishing. He had slaughtered enemies in one battle and rescued the trapped experts. His strength was truly extraordinary. Previously, there were people who said that Chu Feng could be ranked among the top 10 experts. Many people were unconvinced and felt that he didn't live up to his reputation. But now, no one dared to doubt that this was a battle achievement. So much so that some people said that he could stand shoulder to shoulder with the old Lama and perhaps fight for the position of the #1 expert on the continent. Many people firmly believed that as long as Chu Feng could sever his 6th shackle, the position of the #1 expert on the eastern continent would definitely belong to him. In Shuntian, Xia Qinyu was talking to Jiang Luoshan. Luoshan, why do I feel that Chu Feng has surpassed gods? He's practically invincible. Is this true? What? Are you regretting rejecting him during the blind date? What blind date? It's clearly all a misunderstanding. All right, I heard that he attacked the Archaic Alliance and the Extraterrestrial Research Institute. Only Bodhi Biogenetics was spared because of you. Rumor has it that you two spent the night together. Is this true? Tell me about it. How did it feel? Xia Qinyu, if you keep spouting nonsense, I won't let you off. Sister, this brother-in-law's fame is too great. It's not a good thing. He's a womanizer, White Tiger mumbled. Lu Shiyun rolled her eyes and ignored him. All the major corporations were well-behaved. The beast race members who were hostile towards Chu Feng also quieted down. The battle on Mount Longhu had shaken the whole world. Everyone was shaken. At this point, how could there still be people who were blind? The relevant parties were all afraid that Chu Feng would kill his way to their doorsteps. It's snowing, not just on the famed mountains. It's happening everywhere. Chu Feng looked up at the sky. It was dusky and foggy, obscuring the sun. Snowflakes fell from the sky. It wasn't very heavy at first, but as time went by, the ground was covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. News arrived that the marine race had retreated hurriedly. It was because of the ripening of the sea god fruit, the fragrance of the dragonization fruit, and the multicolored eyes of the mysterious ocean. At the same time, snow began to fall from the sky. In the end, the sea surface was almost frozen. The ocean was their foundation. Hence, after receiving the news, the marine race experts put down everything and hurried back. They were nervous and even terrified. The world had changed. This time, The changes in the ocean were even more intense than on land. One day later, the world-shaking news arrived. The ocean was frozen, and all the sea regions were covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. Wind and snow were raging. Under such vile weather, the marine race members sank into the depths of the sea and completely disappeared. They were temporarily cut off from the outside world. At the same time, snow was falling on both the east and west of the continent. The snow grew heavier and covered the mountains and rivers in silver. At first, people felt that it was a novelty. This was especially true in the southern regions. Many had never seen such snow before. After one night, everyone's sense of novelty had disappeared. The snow blocked the roads, and the world was covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. The atmosphere was terrifying. People were panicking. There were no clear skies in every part of the world. It was a world of ice and snow. This isn't scientific. How can it be snowing all over the world? Someone cried out in fright. However, this world was no longer scientific. Ever since the upheavals, many principles and events had been overturned. All kinds of signs indicated that this was no longer the Earth they could understand. Could it be that the great calamity before the great prosperity has arrived unexpectedly when the snow and ice covered the mountains and rivers, reaching the height of a person? Everyone was panicking. In just 1 or 2 days, many people had frozen to death. Now, it was impossible for the marine race to come to land. This world of ice and snow wasn't suitable for their survival. The whole world had sunk into despair. The ocean was frozen for tens of thousands of kilometers. The land was bitterly cold, and the wind and snow were whistling. Everything had happened too suddenly. "The Ice Age has arrived," someone lamented. "This will be the most serious destruction of life in history," some biologists lamented. Chapter 303. Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, and the others were in a small town in the Hunan region. Every breath they exhaled was filled with white mist and even ice shards. Originally, Chu Feng wanted to bring them to Mount Song and the Great Woods Temple, but the Black Yak was unwilling to go no matter what. He didn't want to meet that monkey because he had been beaten up before. Has this villainous heavens gone mad? Can't they leave ordinary people a way out? The Manchurian tiger complained. He was the most resistant to the cold and had always lived in a world of ice and snow. But now, even he was feeling uneasy. One could imagine how the other creatures were feeling. But at this moment, they were enjoying themselves quite a bit. They were having a hot pot made of king-level ingredients. The food was piping hot in this world of ice and snow. It was delicious and refreshing. They also had a jug of aged wine. They were somewhat regretful that Chu Feng had killed many sea beasts on Mount Longhu. In the end, he had given up on them because he didn't have the time to collect them. Chu Feng frowned. They were fine in this bitter cold, but how many days could ordinary people last in such an environment? If this continued, it would be a great disaster. Even the great seas had been frozen. How terrifying would this be? Currently, the cold air was spreading toward the land. The weather was extremely vile with the wind and snow. Why do I feel like the heavens are going to destroy the world? Leave behind the mutants and beast races and kill the ordinary creatures, said the Black Yak. That makes sense. This is the beginning of an era of gods and demons. The Donkey King nodded. After transforming into human form, he bared his front teeth and wore a solemn expression. Even Chu Feng and Yellow Ox were shaken. The situation was indeed mysterious and extremely bizarre. To ordinary people, this was the end of the world. It was the end of the world. According to the current situation, as long as this continued for half a month, not to mention the houses, even the buildings would be drowned in the snow. At that time, the power and food supply would gradually be cut off. Would there still be any living creatures after a period of time? This is illogical. Yellow Cattle's words made Chu Feng speechless. Ever since you appeared, the world I live in has become unscientific. Chu Feng couldn't help but say this. Yellow Cattle was also speechless. Through the glass window, it gazed at the snow-white town and the boundless sky filled with fluttering snow. Its large eyes blinked as it pondered. Could it be that there is a force interfering with the evolution? Could it be that there's an invisible hand involved? Yellow Cattle mumbled. Do you know something? Chu Feng asked. Yellow Cattle sighed and said, I'm worried that the holy lands of other worlds want to forcefully descend and use forbidden methods to send their disciples over. That's why the weather is affected. Do they need to go through so much trouble? Can't they just descend? Chu Feng was surprised. Earth isn't a simple place. I've said before, there are mountains and rivers here that have been stained with divine blood. There are also caves of supreme orthodoxies. There are also sacred trees that make the sects in the outer realm envious. Yellow Cattle brought up the old matter again. He had told Chu Feng all of this before. This place was once incomparably glorious. Demonic sages bathed in blood, and the ancestors of immortal orthodoxies passed away here. Can you imagine? Yellow Cattle shook his head. Just a few words were enough to explain the problem. Earth was very special. It's not that those great sects don't want to enter, but rather that they can't. Even if the Earth has declined, it is still very mysterious. They have to act according to the rules here. Yellow Cattle told them that there were all kinds of strange things in this dried-up ancient land. You guys have also seen it. Not to mention the other worlds, even the creatures in the folded space of the Earth have to go through trials to come here. There's only a slim chance of survival. One careless mistake, and they will be burned to ashes. Yellow Cattle sighed. It was once very glorious, but now it had declined. This was the current situation of the Earth. However, there were still fortunes here. Even if the withered roots of the sacred trees were buried underground for 100,000 or 1,000,000 years, they could still germinate and recover. Once these plants fully recovered, even the holy lands and the starry skies would become envious. At present, these were all ownerless objects. Additionally, there were other great orthodoxies from the outer realms who wanted to come here to search for the relics under the blood-stained mountains and rivers. Let's put it this way. If the Earth fully recovers, it can definitely create several holy lands. One has to know that the sacred trees of other worlds all have owners and are all in the great orthodoxies. Only this place is still a land of development. They chatted for a long time and talked about many things. In the end, Chu Feng mentioned the woman from Mount Longhu. He asked Yellow Cattle what realm was she at. Yellow Cattle shook its head. It wasn't clear and couldn't see through that woman. It only felt that she was abnormally powerful. Didn't you say that it's already extraordinary for there to be carefree realm creatures on Earth? Could it be that she isn't in this category? The Manchurian tiger opened its eyes wide. Yellow Cattle's little face was taut and solemn as he said, I'm talking about the present Earth, not the past. I'm also not talking about the future Earth when it fully recovers and the sacred trees once again flourish. That woman is obviously an ancient evolved being and not a creature that grew up in this environment. Chu Feng's expression also became serious. He wanted Yellow Cattle to speak more clearly and explain the realms above the carefree realm. The black yak and the Manchurian tiger also had expressions of anticipation. I didn't say it earlier because I didn't want to dampen your enthusiasm. But since you're all at the shackled realm, it's also good to say a bit lest you become complacent, said Yellow Cattle. The Earth is dried up and its energy has dispersed. After so many years, it's no longer suitable for cultivation. Even the Earth has lost its spirituality and is as weak as rotten wood. This was Yellow Cattle's evaluation. It could be said that it gave a very low score. In other worlds, the Earth contains spirituality and is relatively sturdy. The entire world is full of vitality and contains astonishing energy. The creatures born from such a world are naturally exceptionally powerful. Following that, Yellow Cattle's words were even more shocking and stunned everyone. In the end, Chu Feng and the others even felt helpless and defeated. That was because in some powerful worlds, a palm-sized mouse could kill ordinary humans after arriving on Earth. How shocking was the disparity? This was a blow to the Earthlings' self-esteem and left Chu Feng and the others speechless. Don't give me a blow. Just tell me, what kind of state will the peak experts and carefree realm creatures be in when they arrive in powerful worlds? The Manchurian tiger asked angrily. Yellow Cattle had once said that on Earth, The three great realms were enough to encompass all evolved creatures, awakened, shackled, and carefree. Among them, the carefree realm was nowhere to be found. Carefree, a small demon, Yellow Cattle replied. He was very serious and said that it was a homonym. That's impossible. The Black Yak was immediately anxious. They were now known as kings and were at the shackled realm. They could already be considered the most powerful creatures on Earth, but in the end, they couldn't even be considered a small demon in other worlds. The Manchurian tiger was also anxious. He said, "Aren't carefree beings able to move unhindered through the firmament and laugh proudly across the four seas? How can the true carefree be a small demon? They can indeed be considered carefree on Earth. In truth, there are many worlds similar to Earth. If one goes there, the carefree realm creatures can still be carefree and unfettered. If you guys go there, you'll naturally be considered great experts," Yellow Cattle said calmly. The group didn't know what to say. This was too much of a blow. How can the difference be so great? I don't believe it. The Donkey King was full of resentment as he mumbled, "I've already said that Earth is ruined and its energy is dried up. It's like a piece of rotten wood that will shatter with the slightest force. Meanwhile, the powerful worlds are like sturdy tree stumps or even metallic stones. They're incomparably sturdy and rich in energy." Yellow Cattle didn't want to discourage them and explained patiently. According to him, those at the carefree realm could fly in the sky and tunnel through the earth, but they might not even be able to fly in some powerful worlds. That's because in those terrifying worlds, the great Tao runs through the firmament and the earth is full of spirituality. The carefree realm is very powerful here, but it's difficult to shatter a mountain in those worlds. Yellow Cattle then used Chu Feng as an example. He was currently at 5.5 times the speed of sound, but it was obvious that he wouldn't be able to break through the sound barrier after going to those powerful worlds. He wouldn't even be able to reach twice the speed of sound. Don't tell me I can't even lift a 5,000-kilogram rock in those worlds. Chu Feng stared at Yellow Cattle and said he had already gotten used to throwing objects weighing tens of thousands of kilograms like sandbags. Yellow Cattle revealed a sympathetic expression and said, "You can't lift it. God damn it. This not only makes one feel defeated, but it also makes one lose all hope." The Manchurian tiger had a tragic and stirring expression. In any case, he was a tyrant here and could look down on a region. If he went to some powerful worlds, he wouldn't even be considered a small demon. That's why you guys always asked me in the past, but I didn't dare tell you. "It was indeed a great blow to your confidence," said Yellow Cattle. But he added that there were many opportunities after the Earth's recovery. They could rise together with this place. There were too many fortunes in this ownerless land, and they could grow rapidly. 1 year of cultivation here was equivalent to 10 or even 100 years in other places. The Earth was indeed decayed like a rotten piece of wood. It was extremely weak, but the sacred tree wasn't fake. How many realms are there between a small demon and a demonic saint? How many realms are there from a small demon to an evolved bodhisattva? Asked the Black Yak. "Not many," Yellow Cattle replied. But no matter how many people asked, he wouldn't say how many realms there were. This immediately made them speechless. That was because they knew that Yellow Cattle was afraid of giving them another blow. "It's really not many, but the gap between each realm is a bit big, so I won't say it." Yellow Cattle smiled bashfully. In the eyes of these people, this was simply the smile of a demon. It hurt them. "Then tell me, is the world you're from considered very powerful?" asked Chu Feng. Yellow Cattle was very modest and said, "It's not very powerful. Within that group, it can only be considered average. Compared to many worlds, it can be considered glorious, but can't compare to the more powerful legendary worlds." According to what he said, the strength of energy in different worlds was different, and the creatures born in those worlds were innately divided into strong and weak. There were too many worlds, so there were many levels of strength. In some worlds, you said that an adult mouse can kill an ordinary adult on Earth. What about you? Are you an adult? The Manchurian tiger wanted to get more information from Yellow Cattle. "My nominal age is 5, and my real age is a bit more than 3.5. I'm almost 4. Yellow Cattle looked bashful. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Are you trying to hurt us? The Manchurian tiger was anxious, and his expression was unkind. Chu Feng waved his hand to pacify him. He then asked Yellow Cattle how strong were those powerful holy lands. There are strong and weak worlds, and the strength of the orthodoxies there is naturally obvious. The most powerful orthodoxies are definitely rooted on the most powerful stars in those strongest worlds, but they also have branches in other worlds. Yellow Cattle gave a simple introduction and didn't want to say too much. That was because those were colossal entities. They looked up like lowly ants on the ground, gazing at the divine, heavenly dragon in the firmament. How strong are the most powerful worlds? The Black Yak didn't give up and asked. I've never been there before, but I've heard some rumors. The most powerful worlds even have strands of primal chaos in their soil. They're firm and immortal. Creatures from other worlds can't move the mountains and rivers there at all. Of course, the prerequisite is that there are ants there. They can even proclaim themselves as kings on earth. Yellow Cattle told him seriously, I don't want to live anymore. The Black Yak really wanted to roll on the ground. Yellow Cattle consoled him. Don't be discouraged. I've said before that there's an opportunity to become a sage ancestor on Earth. As long as we find it, we'll have the chance to stand on equal footing with the legendary demonic sages. How strong was Earth in the past? Chu Feng asked. Very strong. At its peak, it might have been ranked among the top 100 worlds, Yellow Cattle told him seriously. The Manchurian tiger wasn't satisfied and said, Never reached the strongest? The world's top 10 have been fixed since ancient times, Yellow Cattle said solemnly. Chu Feng was a bit worried about the future. There were many worlds that were as rotten as Earth, and their spiritual energy had dried up. The creatures from those worlds weren't much, but if some of the more powerful beings came over, how could they resist? Earth is very strange. Even demonic sages once shed blood here. Naturally, there's a reason for that. I've told you before that the more powerful beings are, the harder it is to cross over. The difficulty of crossing over will increase by many times. Yellow Cattle wasn't worried. At least, this situation wouldn't change in the short term. Living beings are evolving, and so is the Earth. There are strong and weak worlds, but the Earth is starting to recover now, said Yellow Cattle. Don't think about anything else. Work hard to become a little demon, seduce fairies, saintesses, and suppress divine sons with the body of a little demon. It's so difficult. Chu Feng, the Black Yak, and the Manchurian tiger were immediately drunk. That was because after understanding the current truth, they discovered that they had only just started. The road to evolution was still very long. Chapter 304. That's why you should cherish the opportunity to be a peerless expert. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy if you enter another world one day and aren't even a minor demon. Yellow Cattle patted the Manchurian tiger's shoulder and knocked on the Black Yak's horn. In a world with powerful energy, not only would the mountains and rivers be sturdy, but the order of heaven and earth would also be perfect. Those who could uproot mountains on earth would be suppressed there. In those powerful worlds, even minor demons were free and unfettered. Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, and the others left for Mount Kunlun. They braved the ice and snow as they headed west. That was because they had their eyes on that ancient temple in the Himalayas. They wanted to obtain the thunderous breathing technique. No one knew what the current world would be like. No one even knew what the world would become. Would there be prosperity after the ice and snow? It would be difficult for the outer realm orthodoxies to descend, but some of their disciples would be able to pass the trial of life and death. It was only a matter of time before they came. Could it be that the ice and snow were the will of heaven and earth to create an era of gods and demons? Or was it the work of the outer realm orthodoxies? Everything was still unknown. Even Yellow Cattle wasn't sure. What they needed to do was to find ways to make themselves stronger. They couldn't miss out on an ultimate breathing technique that might be found on Earth. I'll go in a few days. Chu Feng had made an appointment with them. He would accompany his parents at Great Wood's temple for a few days before heading west. He would join forces with the old Lama and the others to charge into the thunderous temple. There were many temples on Mount Song. Standing here and gazing into the distance, one could see a vast expanse of whiteness covered in snow and wind. Chu Feng frowned. He didn't know when the snow would stop. The old ape appeared without a sound. His senses were sharp. He stood on the peak and sighed. The will of the heavens is unfathomable. There will only be prosperity after destruction. Senior Ape, I'll stay here and wait for the Vajrabodhi tree to recover completely. Chu Feng laughed. The old ape's expression darkened. The Vajrabodhi tree was in a terrible state. The leaves on its head had shrunk and turned into sprouts, following which they withered and became bald. Even if they used a greenhouse to block the ice and snow and used a brazier to raise the temperature, it was still useless. Chu Feng and Wang Jing had long since become mutants. Although they had to face the bitter cold, they were not affected by it. This made Chu Feng feel completely relieved. The news of Chu Feng's arrival at Dalian Temple spread like wildfire. People kept coming to visit him, mainly because he had made a name for himself in the Battle of Mount Longhu. The snowstorm had a limited effect on the powerful evolvers. Many people even wandered around the famed mountains in the snowstorm to see if there would be any changes. Marshal Uncle Chu, the Black Wolf King, invites you to a banquet. Chu Feng had just sent off a group of people when a little ape came to report that someone had invited him out. Moreover, it was a wolf king. All right, let's go take a look. Chu Feng agreed. The snow had sealed the mountain, and he had nothing better to do. It would be good for him to interact with these beast kings. At the foot of the mountain, there was a mutated bird with a bright red body. This was a mutated chickadee. It was dozens of meters long and had a small palace on its back. It was waiting here to welcome Chu Feng to the banquet. The Black Wolf King's cave was located on Mount White Cloud in the Hunan region. The scenery here was originally beautiful and had the reputation of being a paradise on Earth. But now, one could only see pure white snow. The mountains and rivers were completely covered. The Black Wolf King's cave was very spacious, and the interior was splendid. It was said that it used to be a wolf cave, but now it had been rebuilt into a magnificent place. The interior was very exquisite. There were pavilions, stone arches, small bridges, fountains, and all kinds of strange plants. Even in a world of ice and snow, the inside of the cave was as warm as spring. Chu Feng was speechless. He was thinking that this place used to be an ordinary wolf's den, but now it had such an atmosphere. It was really unexpected. King Chu, although I'm a werewolf, I have nothing to do with the Ash Wolf. The Black Wolf King hurriedly tried to explain himself as soon as they met, afraid that Chu Feng would make a connection. Chu Feng laughed involuntarily. He could only nod and say that this was a different matter. He would never implicate the innocent. The Black Wolf King clapped his hands. Immediately, a few half-transformed beast race members brought in delicacies and wine jars, placing them on the jade table. Following that, a group of demonesses appeared. It was obvious that they were transformed from the beast race. All of them were quite beautiful and flirtatious. Only, some of them had furry cat ears, while others had fluffy tails that swayed back and forth. The group of charming demonesses sang and danced here to liven up the mood. Brother Chu, something big has happened. The Black Wolf King raised a toast to Chu Feng and lowered his voice in a secretive manner. What's the matter? Chu Feng put down his wine cup. He had come here because he wanted to be down to earth and understand the current state of the beast race. Could it be that he had heard some secret news? I heard a piece of news. Is the ice and snow related to the sea? The Black Wolf King informed. Oh, rumor has it that marine race experts discovered a mysterious sea eye. There are ruins and altars there. They were offering sacrifices there, but in the end, they attracted a great calamity and caused the sky to be filled with ice and snow. Chu Feng was immediately dumbfounded. Was there such a thing? The Black Wolf King said, there are also marine race experts who say that there are people at the bottom of the sea who colluded with the outer realm beings to help them descend. They did as they were told and caused the heaven and earth changes to intensify, leading to the arrival of the cold wind and snow. Chu Feng frowned. The cold wave this time had indeed spread from the sea. Could it be related to the marine race? But wasn't this just inviting a wolf into the house? Don't worry. It said that the experts at the bottom of the sea are furious and have stopped everything. They are currently hunting down the people involved in this matter. I'm sure the snow and wind will stop in the end. Chu Feng couldn't confirm the authenticity of this news, but he felt that it wasn't groundless. This trip could be considered worthwhile. In the end, when Chu Feng was feeling tipsy, the Black Wolf King greeted him warmly and indicated to the female seductresses to bring Chu Feng to rest. Forget it, I'm still busy. The powerful fairies and saintesses are about to descend. I have to go prepare to take them in. Chu Feng stopped them and said with a laugh. These female seductresses were too enthusiastic. He really couldn't handle them and quickly left. Chu Feng didn't refuse any of the following banquets. He would rush over to all the king-level invitations that weren't too far away. The one that made him feel the most embarrassed was the Fox Fairy's invitation. She was truly an extraordinarily beautiful woman. Perhaps she couldn't be considered a peerless beauty, but she was charming and moving. Her enthusiasm made Chu Feng flee directly. That was because the cave dwelling was full of female seductresses. Moreover, they were all dressed in white clothes. Not only were they pouring wine, but they were even served food. Needless to say, there were only massages on his shoulders and legs. The atmosphere was excessively charming and gentle. Those fiery gazes made Chu Feng flee without a trace after a short while. This was the first time a Beast King had made him flee without a fight. Moreover, he was in such a sorry state. He was drenched in sweat. Even after running out and standing in the snow for a long time, his blood was still boiling. The news leaked out and became a joke. No one had expected Demon King Chu to have stage fright. Brother, are you okay? What's there to run away from? The distant Manchurian tiger had heard of this and was looking down on him. Chu Feng was so angry that smoke was almost coming out of his nose. He really wanted to find that fox fairy and settle the score. How could she speak of such things so carelessly? Hey, Chu Feng, I heard your kidneys are weak. Even Jiang Luotian had maliciously sent him a text message to attack him. The main reason was that the two of them had inexplicably slept in the same bed last time. This made her very unhappy. No matter what was said, she had suffered a great loss. In the end, this fellow acted as if nothing had happened. Not only did he not apologize, he even stopped contacting her recently. If you dare speak nonsense again, I'll go to Mount Putoa and bring disaster upon you. Chu Feng threatened with a dark expression. Boss, we've purchased 1,000-year knotweed. The clairaudient Ouyang Qing contacted him. What do you mean? Chu Feng was puzzled. It said that this can cure kidney deficiency. Get lost. Chu Feng fiercely ended the call. He wanted nothing more than to run off and exterminate that nest of foxes. During these days, the snowstorm was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Fortunately, it didn't fall violently all the time. This was a great fortune amidst the misfortune. One could clearly feel that Chu Feng's status had risen sharply after the battle at Mount Longhu. The various beast race kings invited him one after another, clearly expressing their goodwill. Even those races that had grudges against him in the past were lowering their heads and trying to find someone to make peace with. They were afraid that he would kill them one day in a bad mood. Within the Jiangxi region, most of the beast race kings who had besieged Chu Feng in the middle of the night had been executed. Only two were still alive, the Monkey King and the Bird King. Now, these two kings had taken the initiative to contact Chu Feng and lowered their heads in submission. They expressed that they would follow him and listen to his orders as long as he didn't kill them. Chu Feng was astonished. He had deeply experienced the effects of the battle at Mount Longhu. Apparently, the two kings had been alarmed recently and couldn't bear it any longer. Later on, people from the corporations came knocking with rare gifts, including fist manuals and ancient weapons. They were still worried that Chu Feng would settle accounts with them. After several days of recuperation, the Hollow Jade Temple Master's heart and injuries had recovered. This was mainly due to the miraculous effects of the stone fruit. Chu Feng, thank you for saving the temple master. Lu Tong spoke to Chu Feng and expressed his gratitude. Additionally, he told Chu Feng that he could make a trip to the Hollow Jade Temple. There was a strange treasure here that no one could see through. This was something the Hollow Jade Temple Master had obtained on Mount Longhu. It shone brilliantly, but eventually dimmed and became completely silent. Many people had been invited to observe it, but none of them could figure out its depths. The Hollow Jade Temple Master told Lu Tong that Chu Feng could also come and take a look if he was interested. Chu Feng, we'll be leaving for the Himalayas in a few days. You can come now. Yellow Cattle informed Chu Feng that they were about to set out. Very well. I'll make a trip to Shuntian first and then head west, Chu Feng replied. There was a distance of 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers between Mount Song and Shuntian. This wasn't a problem for the current Chu Feng. He was astonishingly fast, even with the wind and snow obstructing his way. He passed through the snow and mist, traversed the mountains and ridges, and even so, arrived in less than 2 hours. At this time, someone contacted him. It was the old mountain tortoise, who told him that he had made a divination. This world was similar to the evolution of all living things. It would flourish and decline after extreme, and then prosper after destruction. Chu Feng was baffled. Hadn't the meteorologists and biologists already said that this world would undergo a great destruction and then prosper? He entered the Hollow Jade Temple and met Lu Tong. The old man was very cordial. This time, the Hollow Jade Temple Master also appeared to greet him and express his gratitude. It was all thanks to Chu Feng's rescue that he would have died on Mount Longhu otherwise. Afterwards, he passed the treasure to Chu Feng. Chapter 305. It was a piece of exquisite jade, but there were cracks and indescribable marks on it. It seemed to be bearing the mark of time. Chu Feng was moved. This was an ancient piece of jade. He immediately thought of the 2 pieces of jade containing the demon flood dragon fist. They were somewhat similar. It was warm and smooth to the touch. There was nothing special about it. He looked at it against the light source and saw some black veined patterns resembling vines. Chu Feng looked at it again and felt somewhat disappointed. He felt that it should be different from the jade containing the demon flood dragon fist. The demon rock fist was on par with the demon ox fist and the demon flood dragon fist. He yearned to collect them, but after careful consideration, he felt that it wasn't too realistic. How could he coincidentally encounter one on Mount Longhu? He asked the Hollow Jade Temple Master about the special features of this jade. At first, it could float in the air and emit a faint light. But later on, it became completely dark and no longer had any abnormalities. The Hollow Jade Temple Master replied truthfully. Back then, many people clicked their tongues in wonder, but couldn't figure it out. Have you used your spiritual power to investigate it? Chu Feng asked. Yes, there's some strange energy inside, but I can't draw it out. It's very strange. The Hollow Jade Temple Master frowned. Very well, let me take a look. Chu Feng was somewhat expectant. After all, this was a strange treasure brought out from the ancestral court of Taoism. No matter how one looked at it, a jade stone that could automatically float in the air and emit light was definitely not an ordinary item. Be careful. Lu Tong reminded him not to be careless. What can happen with me here? The Hollow Jade Temple Master shot a glance at the old man. Lu Tong was embarrassed and didn't say anything else. Chu Feng naturally didn't dare to be careless. It was hard to say what was so strange about this ancient jade. However, the Hollow Jade Temple Master and the 8 Visions Temple Master had already investigated it. There shouldn't be any danger. He held the jade in his hand and carefully sent his spiritual power into it. He was immediately astonished. The black energy came in clusters in the shape of flowers and plants. There were even Bodhi trees, hibiscus trees, osmanthus trees, etc. These weren't ordinary trees. Unfortunately, they were all black and only had the same shape. Chu Feng was very cautious. He walked inside and tried to guide it, but the black substance didn't have any abnormal reactions. Later on, He sent a large amount of spiritual energy into the main jade stone and carefully sensed it. He actually sensed a wisp of vitality, as if there was a life form inside. This made him shocked. It was just a piece of ancient jade. How could it be like this? Chu Feng's divine sense was sharper than that of ordinary people. The fusion of his physical body and mental energy seemed to be able to nourish his divine sense. Now it was getting stronger and stronger. He was sure that he could faintly feel it. He was about to retreat and pull out his spiritual power. However, a shocking change happened at this moment. The black plants within the jade stone all moved, releasing Kung Chong sounds as they condensed into a black sword. In the blink of an eye, the interior of the entire piece of jade became extremely strange. This was clearly a material piece of jade, yet now it seemed to have formed an open space that allowed one's mind to reside within, and it was very much like a palace. It was too strange, mysteriously formed. Chu Feng wanted to retreat, but he felt a slight pain in his spirit. The black sword was glowing and pointed at him from afar. Sigh. A sigh was heard, causing Chu Feng's hair to stand on end. Even though his spirit was here, he still felt a chill run down his spine. Who's there? He had a bad premonition. Chu Feng's first reaction was to be on guard. Although it was only his spiritual power, he condensed it into a human form and circulated his breathing technique in accordance with his physical body. He was prepared to fight and retreat. We meet again. At this time, a figure appeared on the black sword. He looked somewhat miserable as the sword had pierced through him and seemed unable to break free. It's you. Chu Feng was astonished. He had never thought he would see an old friend in a piece of ancient jade. He surprised, right? The black sword pierced through the man's heart as if it had nailed him there. Strands of spiritual energy seeped out from the black sword and reassembled on the man's body, making him seem even more solid. Although he was an old man, he possessed the spirit of a lion king. His hair was curled, and his eyes were sharp as he stared fixedly at Chu Feng. He was actually Schiller, a man who had been dead for a long time. Schiller was known as the Last Knight. He had once laid down a trap at the Vatican and caused a world-shaking massacre. He had killed many kings and then organized an expedition to the east. He was powerful, ruthless, and a difficult character to deal with. He had almost cost Chu Feng his life many times. But in the end, Schiller was killed on Mount Longhu and died with a grievance. Who would have thought he would appear again? Chu Feng recalled many things. During the battle on Mount Longhu, Schiller had picked up a strange broken sword and used it to clash with the diamond chakram. In the end, a blinding radiance flooded the area and the broken sword disappeared. At that time, Chu Feng and the others destroyed Schiller's body. They searched for a long time, but couldn't find the broken sword. In the end, they left. Did that broken sword protect your spirit? Chu Feng asked in an attempt to calm him down. Don't try to escape. Schiller looked at him calmly. He didn't seem to feel anything after being pierced by the black sword. Do you think you can keep me here? Chu Feng said as he retreated. Don't act rashly. Talk with me for a bit or I'll self-destruct. When the black substance surges out, this place will be destroyed, Schiller said coldly. Chu Feng was shaken. He wasn't afraid of Schiller. At this point, he could fight against experts with 6 severed shackles. However, he was apprehensive of that black sword. He felt uneasy as though he had fallen into an indescribable, hopeless situation. This black sword is a rare material that can be considered priceless. It's used by divine knights to temper themselves. According to Eastern standards, divine knights are equivalent to golden arhats, Schiller explained. What are you trying to say? Chu Feng stared at him intently. Long story short, this black substance is extremely rare. It was refined from the cosmos by demonic sages and given to their descendants to temper their true bodies. However, the prerequisite is that you have the qualifications to use it. If you don't reach that level, it's a fatal poison. Schiller sighed regretfully. He caressed the black sword with his hand and then looked at himself. He shook his head with a bitter smile. He had unexpectedly found this legendary material, but didn't have the fortune to enjoy it. So, you've been harmed by it and are about to die? Chu Feng gazed at the black sword. Just what kind of strange substance was it? Yes, I don't have long to live, Schiller admitted calmly. This black substance was extremely bizarre. It was like energy, but also like a spiritual body. It was actually a material object that could be integrated into a weapon. The owner of the broken sword was a powerful knight who used this black substance to temper himself. However, he died on Mount Longhu during the Eastern Punitive Expedition. Schiller's spirit rushed into the broken sword, allowing him to escape Chu Feng's killing blow. However, he was also consigned to eternal damnation. He was still far from becoming a divine knight. This black substance was fatal to him and wanted to corrode him. There was no way he could escape unless he died. He had once charged out of Mount Longhu to hypnotize ordinary people and steal their physical bodies. He then inserted his spirit into them, but it was useless. Under the tempering of the black substance, the ordinary body soon disintegrated. Later on, he stole the bodies of powerful evolved beings and was able to hold on for a longer period of time. Unfortunately, it was still going to disintegrate in the end. Moreover, his spirit was also deteriorating and would dissipate sooner or later. Yes, I was the one who spread the news that you have a peerless breathing technique and caused the kings to hunt you down in Jiangxi, Schiller said calmly. Chu Feng was furious and wanted to punch him to death. The storm in Jiangxi had caused too great of an impact and almost killed him. The mastermind was actually Schiller. He was still trying to guess who had spread the news and lured the world to hunt him down. You're really a ghost. You almost killed me in the Western world when you were alive. Even in death, you won't stop. Schiller corrected after hearing this. I'm not dead yet. You're about to die. Chu Feng shouted. Wrong. I'm about to be freed. You'll take my place and be entangled by the black substance. Schiller smiled. I don't understand. Why didn't you harm the hollow Jade Temple Master? Chu Feng asked in a deep voice. This made him feel uneasy. Why don't you take a guess? Schiller laughed loudly. Chu Feng's expression was gloomy as he stared coldly at Schiller. Although this was only a spiritual manifestation, it was no different from a real person. That's because this substance won't rest until you die. Either you destroy it, or it destroys you. I only have one chance to harm someone. Naturally, I want to drag you down with me. You're really patient. Chu Feng realized that he was in danger. Today, he might suffer a great setback or even die here. Schiller smiled. Yes, I've waited long and hard. I knew you'd go to Mount Longhu, so I hid in a piece of jade and waited patiently. At the same time, I was calculating how long I could live in this world. Later on, I saw the hollow Jade Temple Master arrive. I knew I could fall into his hands before coming to contact you. You hate me that much. Chu Feng retreated. Yes, if not for you, my myriad spirit blood medicine would have matured long ago. Today, I'm an expert with 7 severed shackles and a #1 expert on the continent. At that time, all the divine fruits in the famed mountains and great rivers would be mine. Who could compete with me? You've severed my path to godhood. Schiller spoke calmly, but his words were filled with resentment. My spirit has been corroded to the point of death. I'm glad to see you again. Does the hollow Jade Temple Master know you're in the Jade? Chu Feng asked. With his intelligence and strength, he should have sensed something, Schiller said with a smile. You're still trying to sow discord on your deathbed? Chu Feng said coldly. I'm glad to see you again. I'm finally free. Goodbye. I'll leave the suffering to you. Schiller laughed heartily. He was burning his own body, determined to destroy his spirit that had been corroded beyond recognition. At the same time, Chu Feng let out a furious roar and retreated with extreme speed. He wanted to tear this strange space apart. It's useless. After I die, all the black substance will entangle you, Schiller said with a smile. Then he exploded with a boom. At the same time, the sword transformed into a black substance which spread in all directions. It came into contact with Chu Feng and entangled him. Only the Bodhisattva among the evolved beings can purify it for you. Otherwise, you should enjoy it. This thing is very precious and priceless. It's the work of a demonic saint. Only they can refine it. Schiller's remnant will finally disappear. His last words were like the ramblings of a devil. Chapter 306. Schiller's death could also be considered a form of release. He had been corroded by the black substance for such a long time and had suffered endless pain. Now his spirit was completely extinguished. Chu Feng had no choice but to admit that this person was a ruthless character. If not for the unexpected interruption, no one on the continent would have been able to suppress him. Even now, Schiller's death was a great hindrance to Chu Feng. The black substance came into contact with Chu Feng's spirit. It was as though the Qiantang River had breached its dike. Chu Feng was drowned in the black light with no way to evade. Chu Feng exerted all his strength to force his spiritual body out of this strange space. Afterward, the entire piece of jade exploded, forming a blinding ball of light within the hollow jade temple. Chu Feng, what happened to you? Lu Tong cried out in alarm. The old man turned deathly pale at this moment. This unforeseen event was too sudden. The jade disintegrated and burned fiercely, illuminating the entire hollow jade temple. One could see that Chu Feng's spiritual body was in great pain. It was wrapped up by the black substance and was struggling violently like a drowning man. Lu Tong was anxious. He had been stroking his beard, but now he tore off half of it. He rushed over to help Chu Feng get rid of the black substance. "Don't touch him! Retreat!" the hollow jade temple master shouted. Chu Feng's spiritual body glowed and entangled with the black substance. The struggle was extremely intense, and his spiritual energy surged up and down like a mountain torrent. In the blink of an eye, the tables, chairs, and weapon racks all floated up into the air. They collided rapidly and exploded into fine powder. Chu Feng's spiritual energy was wreaking havoc as it fought against the black substance. However, he was unable to break free and cleanly expel it. At this time, a portion of the black substance broke away from his spiritual body and entered his physical body. The black substance was very odd. It had sensed that the physical body and Chu Feng's spirit were one, and had split off a portion to rush over. Chu Feng knew that he had no way to break free for the time being. Schiller's fate might very well be his tomorrow. His spiritual body entered his physical body, and the area regained its tranquility. Many people in the distance were shocked to see their weapons torn to shreds and the broken steel walls several meters away. How could Chu Feng's spiritual force be so terrifying? Everyone revealed looks of awe and veneration. "Chu Feng, how are you now?" Lu Tong was filled with anxiety. He realized that he might have harmed Chu Feng this time. He really shouldn't have allowed him to come to the hollow jade temple. Chu Feng didn't say a word. He just wanted to leave because he didn't know what kind of chain reaction it would cause if the fact that there was a big problem with his body was exposed. Chu Feng was shocked. In just a moment, the energy in his body became sluggish, and the translucent blood channels in his body seemed to be blocked. This was too fast. The black substance was evenly distributed all over his body, from his muscles to his bones. It was everywhere. This speed of corrosion was a little scary. Relatively speaking, his mental energy was also entangled, but it was not completely covered by the black substance. Chu Feng forcefully circulated the energy in his body. His body shone, and violent fluctuations spread out. The 3-foot-thick wall in front of him was torn apart. The scene was terrifying, but he knew that he was doomed. That was because he originally didn't want to cause such a big commotion and wanted to leave calmly. But just now he had lost control. When he circulated the energy in his body with all his might, it didn't flow within his body. Instead, it directly rushed out of his body. His pores were glowing and were no longer holy. Instead, they were gushing with a strange black light. One could see that the surface of his body was dark. It looked like the protective radiance of an unbreakable body, but in truth, it was a manifestation of his terrible condition. In an instant, not only were his bones and muscles infected, but even the energy in his body was mixed with a mysterious substance and fused into one. "Chu Feng, you've encountered a big problem. Don't move recklessly." The hollow jade temple master spoke. His eyes were clear and profound. He looked to be in his 40s and exuded a dignified aura. Chu Feng was silent. His thoughts were running at lightning speed. Now was not the time to leave. Lu Tong's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. He disregarded everything and rushed over to grab one of Chu Feng's arms. He was not afraid of being corroded by the black light and wanted to find out what was going on. What the hell is this? How did this happen? Lu Tong was normally like an old fox, but now he was badly battered and had lost his sense of propriety. There were many mutants in the hollow Jade Temple. The commotion here was simply too great. Many of them approached and revealed astonished expressions. At present, Chu Feng's name had shaken the world and intimidated all races. Mentioning Chu Feng's name in the outside world was even more intimidating than mentioning the hollow Jade Temple. All the kings were apprehensive. This was something everyone in the temple could sense. In the past, when they went out, some of the powerful beast race members were very arrogant and even hostile. But now they were all very polite. Today they were observing Demon King Chu at such a close distance. Many of them felt complicated and somewhat excited. Some of the young female evolved beings had peculiar expressions in their eyes. Their rippling eyes stared fixedly at the silent and calm young man. Something might have happened to Chu Feng, one of the mutants whispered, informing the people who had just arrived. Something happened? How is that possible? Many people are saying that he can compete for the position of the world's #1 expert. Who can harm him? Moreover, this is the hollow Jade Temple. The situation isn't good. There's something wrong with the ancient jade the temple master brought back. Chu Feng is covered in a layer of black radiance. The problem seems very serious. Nearby, some people were whispering to each other. The hollow Jade Temple Master glanced coldly at them. The whispering mutants immediately shut their mouths, not daring to speak further. Lu Tong tried again and again, but gave up after a dozen or so attempts. His energy was repelled by the black substance after entering Chu Feng's body. He couldn't cleanse or sort it out. Chu Feng gestured for him to withdraw. He stood in place without moving and closed his eyes to observe the situation within his body. He realized why Schiller only kept his spiritual body. He was unwilling to continue tormenting others when he could seize their bodies. That was because this black substance had a greater effect on the physical body than on the spirit. The energy within his body was circulating very slowly. It was as if he was walking through a swamp, and it was becoming increasingly difficult. His spirit had also been corroded, but it could still be operated. It wasn't as depressing as before. However, he discovered a problem when he wanted to use the Imperial Sword technique. His spirit was suffering from stabbing pain. It was extremely uncomfortable because the black substance within his spiritual energy had turned into a sword and pierced through his spiritual body. The scarlet flying sword circled around Chu Feng like a scarlet flood dragon soaring through the air. Sword Qi tore through the air, and, in the end, the palm-sized, sparkling, and translucent sword disappeared into his sleeve. It was only a short moment, but his spiritual body felt as if it was being torn apart. "Prepare a quiet room for me," Chu Feng said. He knew it wasn't a good time to leave. He had wanted to leave quietly at first, but he hadn't expected the black substance within his body to be so tyrannical. It immediately went out of control and revealed his true state. It was hard to imagine what kind of consequences would arise if news of his body's problems were spread to the outside world. Perhaps those corporations and their enemies among the beast race would heave a sigh of relief. There might even be a series of unpredictable events that would occur in succession. Seal off all information. No one is to leak what happened here today. The hollow Jade Temple Master issued the order. He possessed an innate dignified aura. Although he was already middle-aged, he was still as heroic as ever. His eyes were as sharp as lightning as they swept through everyone. Chu Feng was sitting within a quiet secret room. He tried once again to expel the black substance, but it was to no avail. He spread his spiritual energy throughout his body and circulated the mysterious breathing technique. In the end, the surface of his body glowed with a black radiance, but he still couldn't expel the black substance. Lu Tong had been following him all along. His heart was filled with guilt and incomparable regret. He felt that he shouldn't have invited Chu Feng back. Otherwise, such a thing wouldn't have happened. Let us see if there's a solution. The Hollow Jade Temple Master had arrived. He had also invited the 8 Visions Temple Master and the Roaming Jade Temple Master. Thank you. Chu Feng nodded. He sat within the quiet room and allowed the 3 experts to operate their techniques. The 8 Visions Temple Master had an aloof and indifferent attitude. He had lost an arm at Mount Longhu and couldn't reattach it. However, it wasn't as if there was no hope. Perhaps there would be a ray of hope when he evolved again. The blood energy within the Roaming Jade Temple Master's body surged like the seas. He was normally very powerful, but now his eyes were like lightning. He placed his hands on Chu Feng's body and carefully sensed it. The 3 experts operated their techniques together to study the black substance within Chu Feng's body. They also tried to cleanse it, but failed in the end. There was no way to expel it. It's very troublesome. This black substance reverses the power of evolution and might cause one to degenerate. It's hard to fathom, said the 8 Visions Temple Master. At this point, Chu Feng didn't hide anything. He told them everything about his encounter within the Jade Stone. He also hoped to borrow the power of the 3 experts to resolve this calamity. But now it seemed useless. The 3 of them working together had no effect. Let's go flip through the Taoist scriptures and various ancient texts to see if there's a solution, said the Roaming Jade Temple Master. For now, it's best not to contact the outside world, including Kunlun. Everything must be kept secret. The Hollow Jade Temple Master warned Chu Feng before leaving. The place quieted down after the 3 left. Lu Tong blamed himself and wanted nothing more than to bang his head against the wall. His expression was extremely unsightly. Yellow Cattle, something happened to me. Chu Feng contacted Yellow Cattle. He stood outside the Hollow Jade Temple, braving the wind and snow as he gazed at the hazy, frosty sky. At this moment, his body still couldn't feel the cold. Even though the black substance had invaded his muscles, skin, and bones, his strength was still there. However, there was a kind of desolate feeling in his heart. This was the first time he felt a sense of helplessness. That was because his world was about to be turned upside down and undergo great changes. The news of Chu Feng's arrival in Shuntian had already spread far and wide. This was no secret. During the following 2 days, countless calls piled up into a pile. So much so that some great demon kings rushed over from the famed mountains to meet him. Their words were filled with fervor and respect when they invited people to inform them. Some major corporations immediately prepared generous gifts. Their upper echelons personally set out to visit the Hollow Jade Temple and meet with Chu Feng. In truth, they had already expressed their intentions before, but it was all in a probing manner. They had sent people to contact Chu Feng on his way back. But now it was very formal. All of them were the biggest powers in the world, and all of them were big shots. After the battle at Mount Longhu, Chu Feng's accomplishments had shocked the world. All parties were apprehensive and had no choice but to acknowledge him. Chapter 307. The weather was extremely bad. Heavy snow swirled in the air, and some places were as low as -10 degrees. The cold was bone-chilling, but the travel of mutants was not affected. The Hollow Jade Temple was bustling with activity. People would come to visit from time to time, hoping to meet Chu Feng. They didn't know Chu Feng's current state. Lu Tong appeared and tactfully informed Chu Feng that he was comprehending an ancient fist manual and had reached a critical juncture. It wasn't appropriate for him to interrupt the meeting. No problem, we can wait. Please forgive us for disturbing you. A white-haired old demon cupped his hands politely and left with a face full of smiles. Am I seeing things? That's an old monster from Mount Chambai. He's also here. That's the king of the Northeast who has long since severed his 6th shackle. He rarely leaves the Northeast. Someone whispered after recognizing the old man's identity. He was actually a peerless expert. Few people knew what his true form was, only that his cultivation was profound. There were many people in front of the hollow jade temple. Most of them wanted to visit Chu Feng. They were deeply surprised that even the old monster from Changbai had come. It was difficult for ordinary people to go out due to the cold weather. However, there was an endless stream of carriages and horses in front of the hollow jade temple. Many demon kings from all over the world had come to visit. Some corporations had found out that Chu Feng was studying fist techniques. They immediately sent over the personal notes and insights of their predecessors. They were absolutely precious. Chu Feng stood in front of the window and sighed. Would the people take back the notes and manuals after learning of his current state? He was well aware of the fickleness of human nature. What people cared about now was his combat strength. What reason would they have to pay him a visit if he were to lose all of that? He had long since spoken to the yellow cattle. The two oxen were extremely anxious. Yellow cattle told him not to worry and that there might still be a chance to turn things around. It had been collecting king-level blood in Mount Kunlun for the past 2 days and would soon arrive at Shuntian to cleanse Chu Feng's spirit and body. Chu Feng was truly unreconciled. He once again circulated his breathing technique and merged his spiritual energy into his blood. Starting from his heart, it spread to every part of his body. In the end, his blood turned black. The most serious change was that his heart was flickering with a black light and was no longer sparkling red. My heart has turned black. Chu Feng mocked himself. This was really ironic. Lu Tong came and told Chu Feng that he had already contacted the best human potential laboratory in the country. They would perform a full body check on him to see if there was a way to eradicate the black substance. The hollow jade temple master was also present. He reassured Chu Feng that he would follow along and help the people in the laboratory diagnose and treat him. Chu Feng frowned. It was not that he did not believe in science, but all kinds of living things were evolving in this world, and medical diagnostics could not keep up with the pace of evolution. However, in the end, he still went. He did not want to waste Lu Tong's good intentions. They secretly set out and arrived at a famous laboratory. Previously, a portion of the king-level flesh and blood had been handed over to this place for testing and research. Chu Feng laid there as all sorts of advanced equipment lit up. It was almost like something out of a sci-fi movie as they scanned his entire body. He felt like he was an object being examined from the inside out. His blood was drawn several times to detect the black substance in his body. The people in the laboratory frowned in astonishment after the various data came out. Chu Feng's constitution was simply too good. He didn't seem like a human at all. He was practically a demonic god. If news of this were spread, it would certainly cause a huge commotion. However, they had no way to extract the black substance. They wanted to extract it from his blood, but before they could do so, the black substance evaporated into a wisp of mist and re-entered Chu Feng's body. In the end, Chu Feng was sent into a sealed spherical apparatus where his blood was automatically scanned and collected. Not long after, the people in the laboratory injected medicine refined from mutant fruits into his body to increase his physical activity. In the end, the medicine was ineffective and was directly expelled through his pores. His constitution possessed astonishing resistance to reverse evolution. After many tests, the person in charge of the laboratory was sweating profusely. He told Lu Tong and the hollow jade temple master that the black substance's reverse evolution was fatal to mutants and mutants. At the very least, they couldn't deal with it with their current methods. Lu Tong sat there motionlessly. His complexion was pale, and his head was lowered without a word. At this time, the hollow jade temple master received news from the 8 Visions temple master that he had gained a deeper understanding of the black substance. During these 2 days, the 3 temple masters had ordered people to flip through all kinds of ancient texts, ranging from the Taoist canon to the secret manuscripts left behind by senior Buddhist monks, and all kinds of ancient texts. A rare substance from the depths of the universe refined by a demonic sage. It's priceless. Even a secret text of Taoism might not necessarily be able to obtain it. The hollow jade temple master was astonished. Although he had heard Chu Feng briefly mention that the black substance was miraculous for golden arhats and divine knights, He didn't expect it to be so valuable. Very soon, the Eight Visions Temple Master informed him of some information that was collated from ancient texts and pieced together from various clues. This black substance was a treasure that all evolved beings yearned for even in their dreams. Who had the most abundant collection at present? Naturally, it was the country. The Eight Visions Temple, the Hollow Jade Temple, and the Roaming Jade Temple were the three great mutant organizations within the country. Their ancient texts and rare Taoist texts were all open to them. In just 2 days, many people were ordered to flip through all kinds of ancient texts and actually found all kinds of clues. So much so that they even found the personal notes of a certain heavenly master when sorting out the ancient texts. Among the notes was the master's praise for the black substance. That heavenly master had once said that he wouldn't even exchange a single copper coin for a gourd of dragon tiger golden pills. In ancient times, one caddy was 16 taels, and a copper coin was only 1/10 of a tael. The dragon tiger golden pill was the most famous divine pill of ancient times. It was known as a rare and precious divine medicine. The founder of Mount Longhu, Zhang Daoling, had successfully refined a furnace of dragon tiger golden pills and thus evolved to its peak state. Heavenly masters from other eras would find it difficult to refine dragon tiger golden pills. Even a heavenly master of an ancient evolved being praised so highly, claiming that even a gourd of dragon tiger golden pills couldn't be exchanged for a single copper coin. This was truly shocking. The master of the Eight Visions Temple and the master of the Hollow Jade Temple were shaken to learn of this shocking news from the Celestial Master's letter. Of course, they also understood that the requirements for evolved beings were extremely high. One had to reach a certain level in order to refine the dark substance. Otherwise, it would become a poison. According to the ancient Taoist records, Chu Feng has been crippled. His path of evolution has already been reversed. There's no more hope. The Eight Visions Temple Master had also arrived. The Hollow Jade Temple Master instructed the laboratory staff to find a way to extract the black substance. No matter what method they used, they had to succeed regardless of the cost. This is somewhat difficult. We've already extracted a lot of blood samples, but before we could separate them, the black substance has already flowed out and returned to the patient's body. The laboratory manager explained that it wouldn't work even if it was sealed in a container. The black substance was extremely strange and could penetrate glass containers, steel cans, and all other materials. Extract some blood and inject it into another organism's body. See if we can retain the black substance, the Hollow Jade Temple Master said. That's Chu Feng we're talking about. Is it appropriate to extract blood like this? The laboratory manager's forehead was dripping with sweat. This was no ordinary experiment. Would Chu Feng be willing to do such a thing? This concerns a great secret on the path of evolution. I believe Chu Feng won't object if he learns of this. We lack a peerless expert on our side, so we need him to pay a price, the Hollow Jade Temple Master said. One day later, Chu Feng was furious. What did this laboratory think he was? A guinea pig? Who knew how much blood had been extracted in a short span of 20 hours? With a bang, he kicked the experimental apparatus and shattered the steel plates. He walked out of the sealed laboratory with an ugly expression. Lu Tong appeared immediately after receiving the news. He was furious after understanding the situation and sent the laboratory manager flying with a kick. He pointed at the latter's nose and cursed. Old Li, I've sent you so many king-level entity blood samples in the past to support you. But have you become addicted to experiments and forgotten your roots? How dare you target Chu Feng like this? The laboratory manager felt that he was in the wrong. He stood there and wanted to say something, but in the end, he could only say that he couldn't deal with the black substance at the moment. Old Li, do you think that Chu Feng's illness can't be cured, and that's why you dare to act so unscrupulously? Lu Tong cursed and tried his best to calm Chu Feng's anger. The Hollow Jade Temple Master arrived. He glanced at Chu Feng and left without saying anything. You should know that Old Li wouldn't dare to do this to me, even if he had 10 times the courage, Chu Feng said calmly. Lu Tong was silent and finally sighed. The temple master probably doesn't have any evil intentions. He's just a bit radical and wants to crack the great secret of the path of evolution. Chu Feng said nothing and followed Lu Tong back to the Hollow Jade Temple. Before long, the Hollow Jade Temple master appeared and apologized to Chu Feng. The environment is vile, and we lack peerless experts. I'm a bit anxious and wanted to find a solution, but I was too radical. I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind. Afterwards, he asked Chu Feng if he had contacted Mount Kunlun. Chu Feng nodded in affirmation. The Hollow Jade Temple master informed, "The situation isn't good. There are rumors in the outside world that you've met with an accident and lost the opportunity to evolve. You might even become weak and become an ordinary person." Chu Feng replied calmly, "What will come will come. I can't hide anything." The Hollow Jade Temple master nodded and patted Chu Feng's shoulder before leaving. Chu Feng frowned as he watched the Hollow Jade Temple master's departing figure. He didn't quite believe that Yellow Cattle would be so careless. This matter shouldn't have leaked out from Mount Kunlun. Before long, Yellow Cattle contacted Chu Feng and told him not to worry and to wait patiently. It was currently looking for the old llama. This old monk's blood was extremely precious and contained Buddha nature. It had a miraculous effect on purifying the flesh and blood. However, the old llama was wandering around Tibet in search of some legendary Buddhist weapons in order to enter the Great Snow Mountain's ancient temple. Presently, Yellow Cattle had already collected the blood of all the great demon kings in Mount Kunlun. It had gone through a lot of trouble to accomplish this. Otherwise, who would be willing to reveal the secret of their blood? The more they understood, the more they cared about these things. It's definitely not from Mount Kunlun. I think it's from a Hollow Jade Temple. I'll let Old Black and the others go ahead and take care of you. You must be careful now. Yellow Cattle became vigilant and reminded Chu Feng. After ending the call, Chu Feng thought for a while and found Lu Tong. He told him to invite all those who had sent their visiting cards. He wanted to invite everyone to a banquet. Are you worried that this place will become a prison? Absolutely not. Lu Tong sighed lightly, but still turned around and left according to Chu Feng's instructions. Chu Feng muttered to himself, "Since someone has leaked the secret, then I'll take the initiative to make it public and invite everyone to a banquet. Perhaps a new balance can be formed." On this day, a rumor caused a great commotion. Chu Feng's path of evolution had reached its end. The news spread like wildfire. Everyone was paying attention to the news, and the world was in an uproar. At first, no one believed it and thought it was a great joke. But there were also some people who believed that this might not be a lie. That was because it had been circulating since yesterday and was only within a small circle. Before long, the news was confirmed to be true. That was because Chu Feng had invited everyone to a banquet and publicly admitted that there was a problem with his body. There was an endless stream of carriages and horses in front of the Hollow Jade Temple. Many people had arrived. There were demon kings from all over the world, as well as some corporate higher-ups. All of them had come to pay a formal visit. The atmosphere of the banquet was quite odd. No one had expected that Chu Feng, who was at the peak of his power, would actually admit that he might become an ordinary person. "Brother Chu, there's no need to say too much. I admire you as a person. Regardless of whether you've encountered a problem or not, you're definitely my friend." The white-haired, white-bearded old demon from Mount Chambai stood up and toasted Chu Feng with a cup of wine. This was a peerless expert with 6 severed shackles. He was quite famous in the northeast region. Some of the people who recognized him revealed astonished expressions. The weather is unpredictable, and people have their ups and downs. It's no big deal. I believe Brother Chu will be able to endure it. Another great demon king stood up and said. Following which, some of the corporate higher-ups also presented some precious gifts to console Chu Feng, saying that there was no hurdle he couldn't cross. Regardless of whether they were sincere or not, at least no short-sighted people appeared at the banquet. Everyone was very polite, and no one offended Chu Feng. Finally, the group took their leave and left behind a pile of precious gifts. However, there were still some changes after that day. Needless to say, the outside world was shocked to the point that their eyeballs almost popped out. Everyone found it hard to believe, but they had no choice but to admit this fact. Chu Feng, who had risen to prominence like a comet and had achieved such a glorious battle record, had actually met with an accident at the peak. Henceforth, he would lose all luster and completely withdraw from the path of evolution. He had faded into obscurity. This was the sigh of the people towards him. In truth, the changes within the Hollow Jade Temple were also visible. Chu Feng could truly feel it. Some people gazed at him from afar with odd expressions. Among them were a number of quick-witted boys and girls who had been very attentive during the past 2 days. They constantly ran over to help Chu Feng with various tasks. They all looked to be around 15 or 16 years old. The 2 boys were very handsome, while the 3 girls were exceptionally beautiful. They were intelligent and quick-witted. They were all mutants with considerable strength despite their young age. Brother Chu, I would like to ask you to accept me as your disciple. Finally, a beautiful girl blinked her large eyes and said. The others were either shy or bold. All of them expressed their desire to ask Chu Feng to teach them fist techniques. Chapter 308. After the first chapter was updated, some of my brothers were so excited that they wanted to bite me. I was so scared that my heart was beating wildly. I had to quickly write a new chapter. Among the young men and women, some were shy and sincere, some were lively and bold, showing their intelligence. They were indeed good seedlings, but the human heart was the hardest thing to see through. Even if they were young, Chu Feng could not make a rash judgment. Come, I'll teach you a fist technique. Chu Feng bowed and stretched his arms. His posture was healthy and beautiful. The faces of the 3 pretty girls were flushed with excitement and also a bit shy. This was the standard Xingyi fist. It wasn't the ancient manual he had obtained from Su Qing, but the one he had practiced at the Hollow Jade Temple. It was also one of the ancient schools. Chu Feng didn't disappoint them. He had indeed taught them a fist technique. His posture was perfect, and he had even improved it to incorporate the true meaning of Su Qing's secret manual. Learn this Xingyi fist, and you'll benefit from it for the rest of your lives, Chu Feng told them in a serious tone. The youths practiced seriously. Their movements weren't bad, and they were indeed very smart. However, Chu Feng could see the disappointment in some of their eyes, but they concealed it well. He sighed lightly and didn't say anything. As expected, they wanted him to teach them a breathing technique. He indeed had several priceless techniques on him. The Xingyi breathing technique and the thunderous, incomplete technique. Any one of them would cause a huge uproar and cause rivers of blood to flow. As for the complete breathing technique Yellow Cattle had imparted to him, there was no need to talk about it. It was an ultimate technique, even in the outer realms, and was known to be supreme. Even fairies and divine sons from other realms would be envious after learning about it. They would either kill to prevent this technique from being leaked or fight for it and take it for themselves. However, he would never impart this technique to others. Yellow Cattle had imparted it to him through enlightenment. Boss, what are you? Ouyang Qing, Du Huaijin, and Yi Qingru had arrived. None of them could accept the news of Chu Feng's setback. As they saw it, Chu Feng was destined to rise after the upheaval and become the strongest expert on the continent. How could something like this happen at such a critical juncture? Over the past few days, they had been sent out by the Hollow Jade Temple to investigate the situation of the famed mountains. They rushed back as soon as they received the news. Their hearts were incomparably heavy. Go and practice your fists by yourselves. The clairvoyant Du Huaijin let the young boys and girls go to the training grounds while they sat down to accompany Chu Feng. How could this be? Although Yi Qingru was charming with her bright eyes and white teeth, she was currently very serious. She bit her bright red lips, unwilling to believe that something had really happened to Chu Feng. It's nothing. At most, I'll just be an ordinary person. Fighting and killing is too boring. I'm already tired of it. It's simply not a normal life. Chu Feng was rather open-minded. He patted their shoulders and deliberately lightened the atmosphere. All the great demons and peerless experts of the world were rescued by me from Mount Longhu. Even if I can't evolve and my strength declines, who would dare to do anything to me? When the others heard this, their eyes lit up. They were worried about Chu Feng, but now that they thought about it, he did seem to be able to protect himself. During the Battle of Mount Longhu, Chu Feng had saved a group of fierce people. Anyone who wanted to touch him would have to think twice. From now on, I'll feed the horses, chop firewood, and travel the famed mountains of the world. Of course, I'll also pick up girls. Chu Feng laughed heartily, saying that he wanted to live a normal life. He didn't want to see any more bloodshed and would no longer participate in those meaningless battles. The others were speechless. Boss, how can you say that your battles are meaningless? The clairaudient Ouyang Qing retorted. Yi Qing grew, combed her naturally wavy hair, and softly reminded Chu Feng, people's hearts are fickle, and the world's like frost. Don't be careless. Chu Feng nodded, indicating that he understood. The others were disappointed and frustrated. They felt pity for Chu Feng and were unwilling to accept this outcome. They could hardly accept this kind of result. In the end, they stood up and said that they would visit him every day. Chu Feng revealed a smile. Don't think of me as weak and fragile. Before I became a mutant, I lived a good life. I was known as the campus goddess killer. Don't worry, even if I lose my status as a mutant, I will still live a carefree life. The others looked at each other in dismay. They weren't sure if Chu Feng could accept this, so they left with their doubts. Soon after, Chu Feng met up with Xiong Kuan, Hu Sheng, and the others. In fact, the youths of the beast race had come several times already, but Chu Feng hadn't met them yet. Now that I'm in the middle of a maelstrom, you guys should avoid arousing suspicion. Don't look for me in the near future. Chu Feng had a simple chat with them before letting them leave. Brother Chu, I have a request. Not long after, a person from 8 Visions Temple arrived. It was an imposing young man named Zhou Kuan. It was said that he was one of the 2 strongest seedlings of 8 Visions Temple and had been heavily nurtured. What's the matter? Chu Feng asked calmly. Brother Chu, this is a very presumptuous request of mine. It's like this. The Palace Master said that my psychic power is naturally strong, suitable for controlling objects, and can perform all kinds of psychic attack training. I want to borrow your flying sword to practice and try to tap into my potential. Using spiritual energy to control a weapon would naturally increase one's strength. However, such a weapon was not easy to find, and only a few had appeared so far. Zhou Kuan said that he was only borrowing it for practice and would return it soon. Sure, here you go. Chu Feng lent him the scarlet flying sword. At noon, another visitor arrived. It was a young man from Hollow Jade Temple, a distant relative of the Temple Master. He had boldly come to borrow the violet gold thunderhammer from Chu Feng. Borrowing weapons is a trend these days. Why is there another one? Chu Feng muttered to himself. His voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for the visitor to hear. Brother Chu, I'm just curious. I want to see what a magical weapon looks like. Can shoot out lightning? In any case, you've already lent your flying sword to Zhou Kuan. Why don't you lend me the hammer for a few days? I won't lend it to you. Chu Feng refused because this young man was too casual. He didn't really need the hammer. The other party was a bit angry, but he didn't say much and left immediately. Black Boss, where are you? Why haven't you arrived yet? Chu Feng contacted the Black Yak. That was because he had calculated the time. The Black Yak and a Manchurian Tiger should be arriving soon with the Golden Condor Kings back. Yellow Cattle hadn't set off yet. They were waiting for the old llama to return so that they could collect his Buddhist blood. However, the Black Yak and a Manchurian Tiger had already set off. Damn it, we were intercepted and almost died on the way. Damn it, we would have been in grave danger if we didn't have the Buddhist staff in our hands. We're currently recuperating in a snowy cave. Don't worry, we'll be there soon. The call ended. Chu Feng's expression was gloomy. He wanted to let go of everything, but in the end, he discovered that things weren't as simple as he had imagined. Feeding the horses, chopping firewood, traveling the famed mountains of the world, far away from battle and slaughter. That was too idealistic and simply impossible. There was no such thing as a pure land in this world. This was just the beginning, but someone had already predicted that the Black Yak and the others would come to Shantian to see him. They had intercepted them on the way and cut off his backup. This was truly vicious and ruthless. Rock King. Chu Feng contacted the Golden Rock King of Mount Hua. In short, he was furious. He was going to use his connections to avenge the Black Yak and the others. That was because he could guess that the Black Yak and the others were definitely injured. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been delayed for so long and needed to recuperate. Senior Rock King, I need your help to kill some people. Following which, Chu Feng contacted the Mountain Tortoise Sectmaster and asked for his help. Chu Feng kept on contacting experts. All of them were peerless experts he had rescued from Mount Longhu and owed him favors. Now he was asking them to come out of the mountains and search for clues as to who wanted to kill his brothers, the Black Yak, and the others. He wanted them to attack with lightning speed and eliminate those people. Chu Feng reacted quickly. He immediately and violently asked a group of peerless experts to come out of the mountains. He wanted to blow up the matter. This wasn't only to avenge his brothers, but also to shake the tiger. Did they really think he was a pushover? Before long, Chu Feng once again circulated the mysterious breathing technique Yellow Cattle had passed to him. He tried to break through the black substance because he was truly unreconciled. It had only been a few days, and there were already people who couldn't hold back and attacked his brothers. They wanted to kill the Black Yak and the others. This was too much. It was intolerable. In his rage, Chu Feng discovered that an astonishing change had occurred after he circulated the breathing technique. The black substance in his body was slowly transforming into a silvery white color. This was a rather strange scene. He urgently contacted Yellow Cattle to understand the situation. What was this unforeseen event? Chapter 309. Why not? It's silver right now. Chu Feng's pores relaxed, exchanging energy with the outside world. Silver light gushed out from the surface of his body. The black substance turned silver and mixed with the energy in his body. They blended with each other and were evenly distributed. Yellow Cattle seemed to be stunned and found it hard to believe. What's going on? Chu Feng asked in a low voice. It was certainly not simple to make Yellow Cattle lose his composure. There's no need to say anything about the origin of the black substance. You already know that it's abnormally rare. It's definitely a rare treasure. As for turning silver, that's just a rumor. Yellow Cattle seriously informed him that transforming into a silver substance was very abnormal, not to mention coming into contact with it. Even seeing or hearing about it was considered a rumor. Because it was too abnormal, even demonic sages had never seen it change during the process of refining. They only occasionally heard of it when it was used by later generations. However, no one stood out to confirm it. It's said that the silver substance can make people achieve the golden body of Bodhisattva. There are also rumors that it can make the realm of Bodhisattva level evolvers fall or even die. According to Yellow Cattle, this silver substance was a mutation, a variant of the black substance. It was unpredictable, and no one could say what kind of changes it would bring, because there were some astonishing legends. According to the handwritten notes of some ancient powerhouses, the silver substance had once allowed a small demon to finally find the road to sainthood. At the same time, there were even more shocking rumors that the silver substance caused the fall of a saint. Chu Feng's expression changed again. According to Yellow Cattle, the silver substance was full of uncertainty. It was impossible to predict what kind of changes it would bring. Perhaps it was like a primeval beast beating the peerless genius into the mortal world. It was like a nightmare that would entangle the host for a lifetime until the host died. At the same time, it was also possible that this was an opportunity to become a saint. It gave people hope and led them to the other shore of light, ultimately achieving supreme results. Yellow Cattle was quite serious, so Chu Feng had to be careful and observe carefully. This silver substance was too strange. It was said that even the Bodhisattva and demonic sages among the evolvers could not necessarily analyze it thoroughly. This was because there was a lack of real objects and samples. Once someone obtained it, who would dare to announce it? He would probably be captured by the giants among the evolvers and used as a lab rat. Isn't this more serious than the black substance? My situation is even worse. Chu Feng's heart was in turmoil. Yellow Cattle comforted him and said, "You can't say that. There's no cure for the black substance at the moment. Once you come into contact with it at your level, you'll probably only be able to delay its outbreak. There's currently no one on Earth who can help you purify it. But the silver matter is different. It's a variable, full of possibilities." Chu Feng said, "In other words, the black substance in my body was equivalent to the contract of death. When the time was up, I would be done for. When the silver substance appeared, it was equivalent to reaching a fork in the road. I might die, or it might be worse than death, falling into a more terrible hell. Of course, I might survive and even live a good life. Therefore, the appearance of the silver substance will be accompanied by all kinds of possibilities. You must grasp it," Yellow Cattle warned. In truth, it was also quite distressed. This had long since exceeded the scope of what it could do. It wanted to help Chu Feng alleviate the situation and delay the outbreak, but it couldn't. In those legends, what did the people who possessed the silver substance do? Were there any secrets about it? Chu Feng asked. Bits and pieces are useless to you. That's because it's rumored that the silver substance appeared on the 10 most powerful planets. The outside world hasn't seen it yet, and not many people know about it. Yellow Cattle had only found out about it after reading the notes left behind by the predecessors. This matter was too important. It involved the demonic sage and the secret of the fall of Bodhisattva. Whoever dared to let the secret of this thing leak out would probably draw the wrath of those supreme experts. The fewer things that could endanger them, the better. No one was willing to let others know. After ending the call, Chu Feng's expression was uncertain. From his point of view, the appearance of the silver substance was too strange and sudden. He had been circulating his breathing technique for the past few days without any improvement. He simply couldn't expel the black substance, and there were no changes within his body. But today, he tried again because of the violent fluctuations in his emotions. The result was a sudden change. It was too abrupt. He once again circulated his breathing technique and found that his body was indeed different. There was an inexplicable change which made him gradually excited. That was because the sluggish energy within his body had actually begun to flow again. It was no longer like before, when he felt like he was stuck in a swamp with silver light gushing out of his pores. His heart, in particular, was gradually glowing as if it was made of silver. It was full of vigorous vitality and pulsating vigorously like a heavenly drum. On this day, the world was in turmoil. That was because some of the supreme experts had come out of their seclusion and occupied the famed mountains. They moved in unison. The golden rock of Mount Hua spread its wings and flew eastward, sweeping through the lands as if searching for something. The mountain tortoise of Kong Tong, the oldest king-level entity, had been divining along the way. He had a mild temperament, but today he announced that he wanted to kill some people. Next, sword radiance shot into the sky from the sword palace of Mount Shu. The two palace masters also moved out with their imperial sword technique. Later on, the old Taiji grandmaster of Mount Wudong descended the mountain and headed north. Very soon, people discovered that the Mastiff King of Kunlun was heading east and the White Snake of Mount Taihang was swimming amidst the ice and snow. So many people had appeared, and all of them were top-grade kings. They were the most powerful beings in the East. What were they planning to do? Many people suspected that a great battle was about to break out. Could it be that the marine race had secretly come ashore and caused these experts to come out to avenge Mount Longhu? It was fine if it was just one expert, but this was a group of people. Who would be able to stop them if they wanted to wipe out everyone? Once they joined forces, not to mention a single power, even several top-grade powers would be destroyed. Finally, a small rumor spread. All the kings had come together to help one person. Are they trying to defy the heavens? A single person has invited so many experts. But this wasn't a secret. In the end, it was revealed. This was caused by Chu Feng. He had contacted all the experts and asked them to take action to hunt down some of the murderers. The Black Yak and the others were ambushed on their way east. Some experts wanted to eliminate them in a tyrannical manner, which provoked Chu Feng and caused him to invite a group of top-grade kings. Everyone was astonished and then drew in a breath of cold air. This was too big of a move. That was because characters like the Golden Rock King and the Kong Tong Sect Master, who were among the top 10 experts of the East, had all been mobilized because of him. Recently, many people had been observing. They wanted to see what would happen after Chu Feng's mishap. What kind of changes would occur? Some people were worried, while others watched with cold eyes. Some even rejoiced in his misfortune. They felt that someone would jump out to target him. But at this moment, all the powers were shocked. Even though something had happened to Chu Feng, the power he could mobilize was astonishing. He had actually made such a group of top-grade kings take action. It was too frightening. Everyone was pondering whether or not this group of people would flatten all the major powers in the blink of an eye. That night, the old tortoise of Mount Kongtong found a clue. His divination was a bit strange and frightening as he pointed out a general direction. Then, all the kings moved together and killed their way into Gansu. They followed all kinds of clues and killed their way to the frozen Yellow River. They broke through the ice and charged into the river. This battle was brilliant at first, but the process was short. There were indeed experts hiding in the river, but how could they stop the kings from killing them? The Yellow River Carp's spirit. It was the one who ambushed the passing Black Yak and the others. Before long, the news leaked out and spread to the outside world. This group of top-grade kings was too swift and efficient. That night, they were rescued by lightning, flattened the carp's nest, and killed the culprit. They were powerful and tyrannical. Some people rushed over and saw the remains of the giant carp spirit on the shore of the Yellow River. It was sealed in ice and snow. The scene was somewhat terrifying, but at the same time, it was full of intimidation. People discovered that there were also marine race figures. A walrus was actually hiding in the Yellow River and colluding with the carp spirit, but it was also killed. This made the creatures on the continent realize that even though the world of ice and snow was unsuitable for marine race travel, they still hadn't completely given up. 2 experts with 6 severed shackles were found and killed on the same day. This shocked everyone and caused many people who were ready to make trouble to give up. Everyone trembled in fear. They discovered that provoking Demon King Chu was extremely troublesome. So many experts owed him favors. Once he opened his mouth, it would definitely cause a huge earthquake. The outside world couldn't calm down. There was an uproar as people discussed spiritedly. In their eyes, even though Chu Feng was about to retire from the mutant stage and return to being an ordinary person, they still couldn't afford to provoke him. This was still a character who could change the weather. The hollow jade temple fell into a period of silence. Chu Feng frowned when he received the news. That was because a white crane from the Mount Shu Sword Palace told him that various signs indicated that someone from the continent had come forward to ask the Yellow River Carp Spirit and the others to intercept and kill the Black Yak. However, the trail ended there. They couldn't find a mastermind. Chu Feng nodded to indicate that he understood. He knew that since those people had said the trail had ended, there was no point in pursuing the matter. At this time, his thoughts were not on this matter, but on the changes in his body. It was simply too odd. That was because the so-called silver substance was constantly changing. Occasionally, it would turn black and gush with black light. This made it difficult for him to understand. Moreover, when it turned into the silver substance, not only did the energy within his body recover, but the flow was no longer blocked. Instead, it became abnormally smooth and even more tyrannical. But when it returned to the black substance, it was as if he had sunk into a swamp. Oscillation. Chu Feng felt that this was a type of fluctuation. When he turned into the black substance, he was at his weakest and had fallen into a trough. But when he turned into the silver substance, his vitality was even more vigorous than before, and he had become abnormally powerful. Chu Feng was studying the silver substance. It was full of uncertainties and possibilities. Chapter 310. The silver substance was a variable. No one could predict its future. It had once caused a saint to fall, and it could also allow a bodhisattva to evolve. It was truly unpredictable. The main reason was that the level involved was too high. There were terrifying secrets within that no one dared to divulge. Otherwise, their entire race would be wiped out, and even their entire star realm would be destroyed. One had to know that the current rumors regarding the silver substance were only passed down in the 10 most powerful worlds. It was very difficult for outsiders to know about it. The 10 most powerful worlds had been constant since ancient times. It could be said that the appearance of the silver substance within Chu Feng's body was an accident. It was also an unspeakable crisis and fate. A single mishap would draw the attention of the 10 most powerful worlds. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Boss, you're truly extraordinary. The outside world says you're crippled, but you've killed 2 experts with 6 severed shackles in the blink of an eye. This really frightened many people. The clairvoyant Du Huijin immediately contacted Chu Feng. It was already late at night, and he was extremely excited. Following which, the Black Yak spoke to him and laughed heartily. Brother, how delightful. The people who try to kill us were dealt with by a single word from you. Haha, how delightful. That carp spirit tasted pretty good. We even went to the Yellow River to have a taste. The Manchurian Tiger, the Donkey King, and the Golden Condor King were all satisfied. They were originally quite sullen because they had been ambushed and almost died. In the end, their brother had sent people to take action before long. Their great enmity had been avenged. The efficiency was simply too high. The outside world had long since boiled over. The effects of this matter were simply too great. At this time, evolvers from both the East and the West knew that Chu Feng was furious. He had mobilized the peerless experts of the famed mountains to kill this murderer. This caused a huge commotion. A person who was thought to be crippled actually possessed such great power. This truly frightened many people. For instance, some corporations had been intimidated by Chu Feng and paid a heavy price. They thought their chance for revenge had come, but now they had seen an even more terrifying side to Chu Feng. He didn't even need to take the lead in this battle, and the result was that the Yellow River Carp Spirit was killed. It was truly shocking, and many people were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They could only rejoice that they were calm enough and did not act rashly. Even if it was said that a phoenix was not as good as a chicken after losing its feathers, it was only limited by the circumstances. That night, there was no peace in the 4 corners of the world. All the forces were seriously evaluating this incident. Chu Feng ended the call with his acquaintance and began to study the silver substance again. This thing had no fixed nature and was constantly changing, which really surprised him. He once talked to Yellow Cattle again and asked if it could convert the silver matter at will. Yellow Cattle was stunned. It clearly told Chu Feng that the silver substance was rare since ancient times and would not change again. It had never heard of a special case like Chu Feng's. Both the black substance and the silver substance were extremely rare and precious. The latter, in particular, involved the death of a saint and the death of a bodhisattva. It was even more terrifying. Yellow Cattle told him that he had never heard of this substance having 2 sides. Usually, after mutation, it would be completely stable and would not continuously appear in 2 states. I feel that there might be a chance to sever the 6th shackle. Chu Feng was full of confidence when the silver substance boiled and his body glowed. Even his hair had turned silver. However, the duration wasn't stable enough and it wasn't long enough. It was difficult for him to continue. That was because to sever the shackle with his peak strength wasn't a matter of 2 or 4 hours. At most, it would last for a night or even a day or 2. His current state was too unstable. When the black substance corroded him, he would be weakened to the lowest point and might even fall from the king level. I'm invincible at my strongest, but but I'll be miserable at my weakest. Chu Feng frowned. He had pondered and researched for an entire night to figure out the properties of this substance. He really didn't know why this substance was like this and why it had two sides to it. At daybreak, Chu Feng received a call from Yellow Cattle. It said solemnly, "Chu Feng, I've discovered that this problem is very terrifying. That silver substance most likely caused the death of a saint and ended up in this world. This also means that it has mutated once again on the basis of the silver substance." Chu Feng was dumbfounded after hearing this. In truth, he was a bit allergic to the word substance. Black, silver, and then mutated once again. Was this going to scare him to death? Was there even a way out for him? The silver substance had mutated once again? Outsiders didn't know about this, so he could only communicate with Yellow Cattle. He didn't know what the future would hold, but Chu Feng had a vague feeling that this substance would change the course of his life. Chu Feng still wants to live? What do you mean by dispatching peerless experts? He's just a cripple who doesn't have long to live. Just as the outside world was discussing this matter, a piece of news exploded everywhere. Someone spoke up and targeted Chu Feng. They had already come to kill him. This was out of everyone's expectations. Last night, the Golden Rock King of Mount Hua, the two white cranes of Mount Shu Sword Palace, and the mountain tortoise of Kongtong Sek had just made their move and killed the yellow river carp demon and the sea tribe's walrus in a domineering manner. In truth, the battle had erupted as soon as this news was sent out. It was so fast that no one could react. Even the Hollow Jade Temple wasn't prepared. Snow swirled in the air and the world was dusky. The sun hadn't been seen for many days. This morning, the Golden Crow descended upon Shuntian and charged into the Hollow Jade Temple. "Chu Feng, get out here. Others might be afraid of you, but I'll kill you." The Golden Crow was accompanied by raging flames and dazzling flames. He burned the heaven and earth, turning the snow into steam and the silvery white sky into a boundless mist. He had arrived in a domineering manner to kill Chu Feng. His enmity with Chu Feng was no secret. It had arisen because of the Peacock King. The Golden Crow and the Nine Lives Cat had gone south to kill Chu Feng last time, only to suffer heavy losses and suffer a counterattack. Now that Chu Feng had been crippled, the Golden Crow had directly launched an attack. This wasn't a good sign. This was something that happened right after Chu Feng had mobilized peerless experts to kill the yellow river carp spirit. He had chosen this juncture wisely. The Golden Crow wanted to tell the world that Chu Feng's so-called connections couldn't protect him, Zhou Quan. He could attack at the first opportunity and take his life. It would naturally be great if he succeeded, but if he failed, it would serve as an example. He would tell the world that the so-called protection of peerless experts was nothing. Everything depended on oneself. Boom! The Hollow Jade Temple turned into a sea of flames and was burned to ashes. A single strike had turned the world scarlet red. The scene was terrifying. "How dare you act so insolently here?" the Hollow Jade Temple Master shouted. He rushed into the sky and fought fiercely with the giant golden bird. Leaf flames surged in the sky, and rays of light splashed in all directions. "You can protect him for a while, but can you protect him forever?" The Golden Crow said coldly. He flapped his golden wings and emitted a torrential divine might. Bang! A golden divine bird swooped down from the sky and collided with the Hollow Jade Temple Master. Flames overflowed in all directions as if the firmament had exploded. Who dares to cause trouble? The one-armed Eight Visions Temple Master appeared, standing on top of a building in the distance. Very soon, the Peacock King, one of the top 10 experts of the East, had arrived. He was glowing brilliantly as he dispersed the wind and snow and stood in the air. He was now incomparably handsome. His face was flawless and more beautiful than many women. He stood proudly between the heaven and earth with his long purple hair flowing in the wind. "This king is here. Who dares act impudently?" the Peacock King coldly said. The roaming Jade Temple Master appeared silently, with a powerful aura filling the air. However, a mysterious expert walked over from another direction. His aura shook the heaven and earth and caused the wind and snow to swirl in reverse. He was boundlessly terrifying as he closed in on the hollow Jade Temple Master. For a moment, the 8 Visions Temple Master and the roaming Jade Temple Master were blocked and unable to move forward. "I want to kill Chu Feng. Who can stop me?" The Golden Crow shouted. The essence flames of extreme yang surged out and illuminated the heaven and earth. The sun that had not been seen for many days seemed to have appeared in the sky and illuminated the entire city of Shantian. He was ostentatious and tyrannical. 3 great demon kings had come to Shantian and barged into the capital to kill Chu Feng. They were truly lawless. Chu Feng stood on the snowy ground and looked up at the sky without saying a word. Because of him, he had actually caused such a huge commotion. An intense battle was taking place in the sky. After the Golden Crow released the essence flames of extreme yang, even the powerful Hollow Jade Temple Master could only evade and not dare to face him head-on. In truth, Chu Feng had also chosen to evade the essence flames of extreme yang when he was fighting against the Golden Crow. This thing could incinerate any living being on Earth. The other 2 Temple Masters were blocked by the Peacock King and the other king and could not move forward. I want to say that a crippled Chu Feng is not worth the 3 of you protecting him. You've already done your utmost. Don't force your way out and throw your lives away. You have to know that there are more than 3 kings on our side today. The Golden Crow coldly shouted. No one is allowed to harm Chu Feng within the Hollow Jade Temple. The Hollow Jade Temple Master shouted. Everyone nodded after hearing this and secretly praised the Hollow Jade Temple Master for his loyalty. Unfortunately, the Temple Master doesn't have a peerless breathing technique. Otherwise, the Golden Crow and the others wouldn't dare to be so impudent. It would be great if Brother Chu had taught them his breathing technique. That way, we would still be able to stand at the apex without fear of the Beast Kings. The boys and girls whispered to each other as they glanced at Chu Feng. They were the ones who had asked Chu Feng to teach them a fist technique. Today, we've come to kill Chu Feng. We'll do as we say. Hollow Jade Temple Master, you can't stop us. It was at this time that the 4th king appeared. He was also a beast king, a snow-white pangolin. His entire body was glistening with silvery light as he soared through the air. Apparently, he was standing with the Golden Crow and Peacock King. They wanted to kill Chu Feng and were forcing their way over. The Hollow Jade Temple was in a dire situation without a 4th king. Brother Chu, can you teach the breathing technique to the Temple Master and the others? Otherwise, we'll be in danger. A youth cried out in alarm. Brother Chu, I feel that we should destroy the beast race's prestige. We can't let them act so presumptuously. Another girl spoke up. She blinked her large eyes and revealed a hopeful expression as she looked at Chu Feng. Chu Feng remained silent. His emotions were complicated. The youths were still talking about the breathing technique at this critical juncture. He could only let out a light sigh. At first, he wanted to use the dragon locking pillars to seal off an area, but now he didn't want to use them. Many people from the Hollow Jade Temple looked over. Many evolvers from Shantian had also rushed over after hearing the battle. They were all paying close attention to this place. You think I'm weak and easy to bully? Then I'll accompany you in this final battle. Chu Feng looked up at the firmament as he spoke. Everyone was astonished. Wasn't there something wrong with his body? How could he still fight? Even the boys and girls in front of Chu Feng were amazed by the scene. After this battle, I'll leave the Hollow Jade Temple. I'll feed the horses, chop firewood, and travel the famed mountains of the world. I'll be a free man from now on. Chu Feng's voice wasn't loud, but it traveled far. Everyone was astonished, especially those from the Hollow Jade Temple. They all turned to look at him. Boom! The next moment, dazzling silver light gushed out from Chu Feng's body as he took the initiative to meet the Pangolin King head-on. Rip! The two came into contact within a breath's time. Chu Feng tore the pangolin apart like a scarecrow. Fresh blood rained down from the sky. Boom! The next moment, he soared into the air. His entire body was covered in silver light, and even his hair was silvery white. He flew several kilometers into the sky and attacked the golden crow. Thump, 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 a violent collision ensued with torrential flames. How is this possible? The golden crow was astonished. This is the last of my power. I'll go into seclusion after using it. Chu Feng grabbed the golden crow. With a puff, a golden wing was swept up by the silver light and torn off. What? He still has the strength to kill the golden crow. The group within the hollow jade temple was shaken. Chu Feng was exceptionally powerful. He tore off the golden crow's wing and engaged in an intense battle accompanied by a rain of blood. In the end, the golden crow couldn't even escape and was caught up. Chu Feng tore the golden crow's body into two and bathed in the golden crow's blood. He didn't rely on the hollow jade temple, nor did he need anyone to protect him. He killed the enemy alone. At this moment, the world was completely silent. Everyone, vote for the holy ground at the beginning of the month. Chapter 3:11. Who wouldn't be astonished? Who wouldn't be trembling? Chu Feng stood tall on the battlefield. Dazzling silver light seeped out from his pores, including his hair. It was as if they were forged from silver, and his entire body was surging with silver energy. In the air, golden feathers died and blood fell. These golden divine feathers were extremely sharp. When they landed on the ground, they inserted themselves into the earth and rocks like sharp swords, releasing zhung-zhung sounds. Chu Feng tossed the two halves of a bird king's body onto the ground. A top-grade bird king with 6 severed shackles had fallen to the ground, dyeing the hollow jade temple red with its blood. He had killed the 3-legged golden crow with his bare hands not long after the battle began. The scene was deathly silent. Everyone was stunned. Was this really a person with a problem with his body? This result was truly frightening. How many people in this world could kill a peerless bird king on their own? Even the hollow jade temple master was unable to do so despite fighting for a long time just now. Now, everyone was dumbfounded. Had there been a problem with Chu Feng's body? He had killed a top-grade king on his own. This didn't match the rumors at all. Not far from Chu Feng, a number of young men and women shut their mouths. They were at a loss of what to do and were extremely nervous. Just now, they were intentionally or unintentionally asking Chu Feng to impart a breathing technique to the hollow jade temple master to suppress the beast king. Otherwise, he would be in great danger. But now, everything had been reversed. Chu Feng had killed a powerful enemy on his own without anyone's protection. Within the hollow jade temple, those mutants who wanted Chu Feng to impart his breathing technique or gift him weapons felt uneasy and even fearful. Not only were there mutants from the hollow jade temple, but there were also those from the outside world who had rushed over after hearing the commotion. At this moment, all of them were filled with apprehension. Chu Feng's performance was simply too shocking. He could survive even without relying on the hollow jade temple master. He had dragged his problematic body and killed the enemy on his own without showing any signs of weakness. Apparently, this result shocked many mutants. Some of them glanced at the distant hollow jade temple master and then at Chu Feng. The contrast was rather obvious. The hollow jade temple master at his peak had said that he would protect Chu Feng, but he couldn't take down the golden crow. The battle had been going on for a long time without any results. When Chu Feng's life was in danger, he acted himself and killed 2 powerful experts. It was extremely shocking. Some mutants couldn't help but wonder if Chu Feng was too powerful or if the hollow jade temple master wasn't doing his best. The more he thought about it, the more complicated it became. Chu Feng, who was bathed in a resplendent silver radiance from head to toe, looked like a god of war. Stepping on golden feathers, he flew past the gigantic corpse of the bird king and faced the peacock king in midair. The air exploded. The peacock king, with long purple hair and a devilishly handsome face, was extremely decisive. He spread his wings, broke through the sound barrier, and fled from Shantian. Following that, the other king who had stopped the roaming Jade Palace master also transformed into his true form, a canary. He fled in panic and disappeared from Shuntian City. The two kings fled without fighting. This result shocked everyone to the point that no one made a sound. No one spoke for a long time. All the evolvers who saw this scene were extremely shocked. There was no such thing as an airtight wall. This was especially true for many outsiders who had rushed to the Hollow Jade Temple and witnessed everything with their own eyes. The news spread and immediately caused great waves. This is godly. Is he going to defy the heavens? The outside world was in a state of fervor despite the swirling snow and ice in the morning. Everyone was discussing the strength of the Golden Crow. Many people knew that he was a peerless expert, but he had been torn apart by Chu Feng's bare hands. This shocked the world. Some people were guessing that there was nothing wrong with Chu Feng's body and that everything was just an act to lure the enemy in and kill them. However, there were people who quickly refuted this. They were certain that there was something wrong with Chu Feng's body because they had attended the banquet at the Hollow Jade Temple and understood the truth. Chu Feng said that this would be his last battle and that he would use up the last of his strength. Perhaps this is the truth. Many people agreed with this theory. There was indeed something wrong with him, but he was able to fight the final battle after putting his life on the line. The result was truly astonishing. Many people in the outside world were discussing the same question. Just how strong was he? He had actually killed the Golden Crow in such a ferocious manner. At the same time, a small number of people were doubtful. Had the Hollow Jade Temple Master really done his best to protect Chu Feng? He had relied on himself to kill the enemy at the last moment. This theory put the Hollow Jade Temple in a passive position. At this time, the young men and women within the temple were the most apprehensive and uneasy. However, Chu Feng didn't say anything and acted as though nothing had happened. Thump! Chu Feng lost control of his body as he took a step forward. The ground beneath his feet cracked, and the silver radiance on his body disappeared. Black light rushed out of his pores as he lost control of his energy. He was rapidly weakening. This was something that had happened some time after the battle. Many people within the Hollow Jade Temple were bewildered. "How are you?" The roaming Jade Temple Master walked over. He was very tall, with thick black hair and bright eyes. "That should have been my last battle," replied Chu Feng. The one-armed Eight Visions Temple Master and the calm Hollow Jade Temple Master also walked over. They placed their hands on Chu Feng's body and began to examine him in detail. In the end, they were convinced that Chu Feng's current state was extremely terrible. The black substance mixed with energy had caused his strength to decrease sharply and his realm to fall. In terms of energy level, he has directly fallen below the king level. This was their diagnosis, and they were certain that there was no mistake. At their level, they could instantly see through the other party's situation as long as they touched him. There was no way to hide it. Big Brother Chu's body really has a problem. It seems that what happened just now was just the final radiance of a setting sun. He won't be able to display such power in the future. I think he'll leave behind his inheritance and let someone else take his place. The young men and women discussed among themselves and glanced over from time to time. How is he now? After the Hollow Jade Temple Master and the others left, the place quieted down. Lu Tong appeared with a worried expression. He then invited the people from the laboratory to examine Chu Feng's condition. They didn't draw his blood this time because they didn't dare to do so. They only used some instruments to measure Chu Feng's vital signs and found that he was much weaker than before. He's really fallen from the king level. This sigh. Lu Tong sighed. He had no other way. I've already said that I'm going to live in seclusion. I'm tired of this kind of life and want to change to a more colorful one. You don't need to worry too much, said Chu Feng. He was naturally going to leave. He had told Lu Tong clearly that he was withdrawing from the Hollow Jade Temple regardless of whether he could recover in the future. Lu Tong opened his mouth after hearing this, but didn't know how to persuade Chu Feng to stay. That was because he also felt that the people in the temple were going too far. What could he use to persuade Chu Feng to stay? He turned around and left in a somewhat desolate manner. His figure was slightly stooped and aged. He felt mentally and physically exhausted. Naturally, the news couldn't be hidden. Chu Feng's departure caused a huge commotion within the Hollow Jade Temple. A number of young men and women rushed over the first instance. They were somewhat nervous and anxious. They all tried to persuade him to stay and didn't want him to go far. Brother Chu, the outside world is a world of ice and snow. The beast race runs amok. There's something wrong with your body, and it's very dangerous for you to go out alone. It's better for you to stay. Chu Feng's expression was calm as he said, I also have many friends outside. It shouldn't be a problem for me to walk around. A beautiful young lady said nervously, Brother Chu, can you teach us the breathing technique? We want to worship you as our master. If we become experts, we can intimidate the beast race and follow and protect you. Yes, Brother Chu, we'll train with you and learn your breathing technique. If the marine race comes ashore in the future, we'll fight them in your place. The young men and women all spoke up. Chu Feng was speechless. His mood was somewhat complicated. In the end, he only rubbed the head of the young man and said nothing. He walked to the window and looked at the wind and snow. The black yak and the others should be arriving soon. Soon after, another group of people appeared at Chu Feng's residence. They were all mutants from the Hollow Jade Temple and the Eight Visions Temple. They actually wanted to learn the Imperial Sword technique from him. Brother Chu, we know we're being presumptuous and our faces are burning, but we have no choice but to brace ourselves and come. After all, you're also from the Hollow Jade Temple. We can't just watch as the beast race rises and our side weakens. At this time, they had already received definite news that Chu Feng's strength had fallen below the king level after his last battle. It was confirmed that he would be withdrawing from the world of experts. This caused some people to feel complicated. After all, Chu Feng was once so powerful that they were valued by all parties when they went out. They didn't dare to offend him lightly. At the same time, there were also some people whose hearts were in turmoil. They felt that Chu Feng's decline might be their opportunity. If they could obtain a breathing technique from him and learn the Imperial Sword technique, they might be able to become the second Chu Feng. Chu Feng was also moved as he looked at these people. He had originally wanted to pass down some things, but some people went too far and made him change his mind. The distant nephew of the Hollow Jade Temple Master, Yuan Hong, came once again. This time, he didn't come to ask for the violet gold thunder hammer, but to borrow the diamond chakram on his wrist. Everyone knew that this was Chu Feng's most important weapon. It had an extraordinary significance to him. Brother Chu, rest in peace. In any case, you won't be able to use the diamond chakram in the future. Why don't you lend it to us and place it in the Hollow Jade Temple to intimidate the beast race? After all, you could be considered a member of the Hollow Jade Temple. This place has nurtured you, so you should repay the Hollow Jade Temple in the end. We'll be very grateful. There were a few people beside Yuan Hong who had followed him here. Their tone was gentle and courteous, but their intentions were the same. They wanted Chu Feng to leave the diamond chakram behind. Your appetite is too big. You've bypassed the violet gold thunder hammer and directly want my most important weapon? Chu Feng's expression sank. Not to mention that his condition was unclear. The substance within his body was changing between black and silver. There was danger, but there were also opportunities. Even if his future was bleak, he didn't necessarily have to leave these things here. He wanted to give them to Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, and the others. Brother Chu, how great were your accomplishments when you joined the Hollow Jade Temple? You could only grow rapidly with the help and protection of the Hollow Jade Temple. You must know how to be grateful. The distant nephew of the Hollow Jade Temple Master, Yuan Hong, was very solemn. He seemed to be reprimanding Chu Feng as he advised him. After asking for the diamond chakram, do you want me to hand over my breathing technique and fist technique? Chu Feng asked coldly. Brother Chu, the Hollow Jade Temple is your home and also your backyard. What's the harm in leaving behind some techniques? It's not like they've fallen into the hands of outsiders. What's the difference between you and this place? One's loss, one's glory, one's glory. After the Hollow Jade Temple becomes stronger, even if you're no longer a mutant and your strength drops greatly, this place can still protect you. Zhou Quan, is this your idea or the idea of the Hollow Jade Temple's decision-makers? Chu Feng asked. It has nothing to do with the others in the palace. It's just a suggestion from us hot-blooded youngsters. Brother Chu Feng, this is where your foundation lies. If we become stronger, you'll have a guarantee even if you decline to an ordinary person. Yuan Hong's words were sonorous and resonant. Scram! It was at this time that a large head with a black horn poked through the window. It appeared abruptly and stretched out a large hand, dragging Yuan Hong out of the window. Thump, thump, thump. In just a split second, Yuan Hong had suffered a vicious beating. The black yak, the Manchurian tiger, the old donkey, and the golden condor king had arrived. Their bodies were covered in froth as they braved the ice and snow to rush through the night. They arrived at the hollow jade temple in the morning and directly barged in. You bastard! You dare disrespect my brother? Who do you think you are? What does my brother's rise have to do with the hollow jade temple? Which step of his didn't rely on himself? On the contrary, he gave your hollow jade temple many benefits. He helped you flatten mountains and villages and sent large amounts of king-level flesh for your research and refinement into king-level blood medicine. How did you get your cultivation? You must have eaten king-level blood medicine, right? The black yak became increasingly angry as he spoke. He kicked Yuan Hong on the ground, causing him to scream miserably. His flesh was lacerated and some of his bones were broken. Naturally, the black yak controlled his strength well and didn't kill him. The Manchurian tiger also rushed over and roared, almost scattering Yuan Hong's spiritual energy. Even if my brother goes into seclusion, there's no need for your hollow jade temple to pretend to be benevolent and righteous. It's enough for us to take care of him. Why would I need you? You think too highly of yourself. In truth, you're nothing but dog sh*t. The Donkey King also stepped forward and gave Yuan Hong a kick. If we're talking about favors, Chu Feng saved the hollow jade temple master not long ago. Isn't that a great favor? But has he ever asked for favors from the hollow jade temple? You're using some superficial old matters as a great favor, yet you still have the face to mention it? Using a small favor to ask for a big favor. Do you still have any shame? The black yak, the Manchurian tiger, and the old donkey went up and gave Yuan Hong a good beating. Yuan Hong howled miserably as his bones were broken and his tendons snapped. The people who had come with him turned pale and were trembling with fear. Let's go, brother. Let's leave this place and go to Kunlun. Let's go to hell with that dog sh*t hollow jade temple. As they spoke, they were about to bring Chu Feng away from Shantian. How could such a big commotion not alarm others? Many people appeared within moments and ran over to watch. Lu Tong had also arrived. The old man was so anxious that he was rubbing his hands together. After understanding the situation, he was extremely dissatisfied with Yuan Hong. The hollow jade temple master also arrived. He glanced at Yuan Hong and cupped his hands toward the Manchurian tiger and the others. Well beaten up, this good-for-nothing only wants to take shortcuts. He'll never amount to anything in this lifetime. The Manchurian tiger and the others didn't want to have a falling out with a top-notch expert like the hollow jade temple master. They want to part ways amicably. As such, they were quite polite and cupped their hands toward him, expressing that they were angry just now and couldn't bear to see their brother being wronged. That was why they had attacked out of anger. The black yak was very direct. We're going to bring Chu Feng away to a place with verdant hills and limpid waters to recuperate. The hollow jade temple master sighed lightly and shook his head. He wouldn't let them pass and said, Chu Feng has contributed so much. How can we abandon him at such a critical moment? We must do our best to help him recover. We're currently searching the Taoist canons and various ancient texts for a solution. Now that we've made some headway, we must treat him. Chapter 3:12. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. Trust me, staying here is the best choice for Chu Feng. We're the most ancient books. Can any other place compare to the National Secret Storehouse? The hollow jade temple master's expression was solemn as he dissuaded the Black Yaks group. According to him, there were even legendary books with great origins within the vast sea of books. Currently, The relevant people were searching for a solution to expel the black substance from Chu Feng's body. Although the black yak and the others were tempted, they trusted yellow cattle more. They felt that it was more reliable than the national secret storehouse. The black yak didn't want to fall out with him. You can continue to search through the books. If you find a solution, let us know. We'll be eternally grateful. Meanwhile, we'll take Chu Feng to Mount Kunlun to recuperate. There are also some ancient techniques in Tibet for him to try. The hollow jade temple master shook his head and said, "There's another reason why I object to Chu Feng's departure. Not long ago, we received a secret report that although the ocean is frozen and the depths of the sea are in turmoil, there are still people who are unwilling to come ashore." "What do you mean?" The Manchurian tiger was alarmed. The hollow jade temple master informed, "Reportedly, marine race experts are coming from the north. They might be targeting Chu Feng. Last time, Chu Feng killed one of the marine race's leading experts, the Octopus King, and almost killed the sea god tiger. He cut off his tail and incited a grudge against him. Someone wants to kill him. Especially after hearing that there's a problem with his body, they want to take this opportunity to cause trouble. Then all the more we can't stay in Shantian. It's too dangerous here. We need to leave as soon as possible and go to Mount Kunlun." The black yak waved his hand. "Wrong. If you bring Chu Feng along with you, it'll be exactly what they want. They'll definitely intercept you midway. They've already calculated where you're going," said the hollow jade temple master. The black yak and the Manchurian tiger's expressions became unsightly. That was because they had been ambushed along the way. The yellow river carp spirit and a walrus had almost killed them. The hollow jade temple master pointed in all directions and said, "I've already ordered people to bring enough weapons here, just now. If more beast race experts attack, even if they don't die, they'll still lose a layer of skin." The next moment, various laser weapons appeared in certain areas of the hollow jade temple. Some of them were vaguely aimed at the black yak and the others to intimidate them. "Don't aim randomly. This king will take it seriously," the black yak warned coldly. "Don't be rude," the hollow jade temple master reprimanded. Then, with a wave of his hand, Yuan Hong, who was lying motionless on the ground, was swept up and sent flying. He ordered the others, "Bring him away, lock him in the black prison, and let him reflect for a few months." "Uncle, I was wrong. Don't be like this," Yuan Hong screamed, but he was still dragged away. "You have to pay the price for your wrongdoings," the hollow jade temple master said in a deep voice. He then looked at Chu Feng and apologized, asking him not to take offense. "Temple Master Yuan, I think it's better for us to leave." The Manchurian tiger and the Donkey King also spoke. They felt uncomfortable staying here. Shantian is a mess and not a good place to recuperate. "I think it's better for me to leave with my brother." The black yak spoke once more, because he felt that leaving Chu Feng here was akin to putting him under house arrest. The hollow jade temple master's attitude was resolute. "No, Chu Feng is a member of our hollow jade temple. He has contributed greatly, and now that he's in trouble, we can't abandon him. It's fine if you can guarantee his safety, but he might be ambushed and killed. I can't let you bring him into danger." The black yak was about to erupt in anger. Why couldn't he let them take him away? Everything was just the hollow jade temple master's speculation. Moreover, the black yak felt that Chu Feng was imprisoned here without any freedom to speak of. This was especially true after the infuriating events that had happened not too long ago. They had actually forced Chu Feng to hand over his fist techniques and breathing techniques, and even demanded the diamond chakram from him. This made one's heart go cold. Could they still stay here? Obviously not. "We must leave." The black yak's temper flared. Even though he knew the hollow jade temple master was powerful, he was still fearless. He raised his Buddhist staff. At worst, he would just smash this place into pieces. "Brother Yak, you're too stubborn. Even if you don't think for yourself, you still have to think for Chu Feng. The journey is too dangerous. If there's an accident, it'll be a heartache for all of us," the hollow jade temple master said in a deep voice. Chu Feng stared for a long time before finally speaking. "Temple Master, have you asked for my opinion?" The hollow jade temple master looked at him and said, "Chu Feng, don't let your emotions affect your decisions. You have to believe that you'll have a chance to recover and become a peerless expert once again if you stay here. You're still young, so you need to be patient. The books in the country's secret storehouse are far beyond your imagination. There'll be a solution. No need. I've already made up my mind. I'll leave the Hollow Jade Temple right now. From now on, I'll regain my freedom and withdraw from this mutant organization. I'm tired and want to rest. The Hollow Jade Temple Master frowned. His gaze was somewhat sharp as he stared at Chu Feng for a while before letting out a light sigh. Brother Chu Feng, it's better if you stay. The Temple Master treats you with sincerity and will find a way to help you recover. There's no other ancient method to inquire about apart from here. Some people tried to dissuade Chu Feng, asking him to stay. However, Chu Feng wasn't moved. He had made up his mind to leave. At this time, the one-armed Eight Visions Temple Master had also arrived and was looking at Chu Feng. The Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others were on high alert. With two peerless experts here, they had no choice but to be on guard. The consequences would be dire if things got out of hand. In the end, the Hollow Jade Temple Master sighed and said to Chu Feng, "Since you insist on leaving, take care of yourself." The Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others glanced at each other in dismay. They were somewhat surprised because they hadn't expected the Hollow Jade Temple Master to relent in the end. This allowed them to heave a sigh of relief. Chu Feng cupped his fists at the people of the Hollow Jade Temple and turned to leave. He braved the wind and snow and was the first to leave. Before leaving, the Manchurian Tiger suddenly stopped and turned around, saying, "Oh right, who else has borrowed weapons from my brother? Is there anyone who hasn't returned them? Take this opportunity to return them. I don't believe my brother will be crippled just like that. Hurry up, don't be too greedy." In the distance, Zhou Kuan was somewhat embarrassed. He was also among the crowd and standing behind the Eight Visions Temple Master. At this time, he braced himself and offered a scarlet flying knife with both hands. Many people were moved. Nowadays, weapons that could be controlled with spiritual arts were few and far between and were exceptionally precious. The Manchurian Tiger wasn't going to be polite. He snatched the knife and rushed out of the building complex to catch up with Chu Feng and the others. "Let's go." After arriving at a spacious area outside of the Hollow Jade Temple, the Golden Condor King transformed into his true form. Chu Feng and the others climbed onto his back as he rushed into the sky against the wind and snow. Just like that, they left Shantian. The Golden Condor King's speed was much slower than usual due to the strong wind and snow. The whole world was covered in a hazy haze as the violent snowstorm raged on without end. Only an hour had passed, and the Golden Condor King had flown thousands of kilometers when an unforeseen event occurred along the way. Several interweaving beams of light shot toward them. God damn it, laser weapons. These are human weapons. Are they trying to kill us? However, their powerful divine instincts allowed them to sense the danger in advance. The Golden Condor King had long since evaded. "Don't worry, such weapons won't be able to do much damage in such vile weather," the Black Yak replied. Chu Feng didn't say anything. He stared ahead and then glanced at the surroundings with a frown. It shouldn't be a human attack, right? Otherwise, it would be too obvious and infuriating. You have to know that Chu Feng is here, the Donkey King said. Trouble's coming. The Manchurian Tiger's hair stood on end. He was an expert with 6 severed shackles. Especially after obtaining the breathing technique, his strength had increased explosively, and his divine instincts had become even sharper. The Black Yak cursed. "Damn it, there really are marine race experts coming to kill us." The Hollow Jade Temple Master was right. We're going according to his script. A bronze tiger, no different from metal, flapped its wings coldly as it closed in. "You humans' weapons are truly inferior. It's best if we kill them ourselves," the bronze tiger said. Its body was emitting a terrifying aura as it hovered in the air. Its strength was exceptionally powerful as it stared at Chu Feng like a tiger watching its prey. "What's your relationship with the sea god tiger?" Chu Feng asked. "Not every sea tiger can be called the sea god tiger. What do you think?" The bronze tiger replied coldly. He was feeling rather uncomfortable at the moment. His bloodline wasn't as noble and powerful as the sea god tiger, so his attitude was quite cold. Not far in the distance, a strange fish was soaring in the air with sharp teeth as it stared coldly at Chu Feng's group. "I heard you're crippled. Just in time to take you away and become a prisoner in the ocean," the strange fish said. The third and final marine race expert had a human body but a pair of wings. This was a marine human. Although the marine race was rare, they were divided into several branches. For instance, the marine race expert Qian Yu from the Three Seas and the marine race expert Luo Tian from Mount Longhu, who was attacking the azure calabash in an attempt to snatch the bronze lamp. "Come over yourself, or do you want us to take you down personally?" This marine human was quite arrogant. His expression was cold as he spoke directly. His appearance was similar to that of a human. Apart from the gills and the extra pair of wings, everything else was similar to that of a human. "Descend," the black yak whispered. They couldn't fly and weren't proficient in aerial combat. The golden condor king landed ferociously, kicking up a large snowstorm. The three marine race experts followed suit and also landed on the ground. Boom! The next moment, the black yak immediately took action. He waved his Buddhist staff, causing it to erupt with Buddhist radiance. It was powerful and wanted to kill the three marine race experts. However, they sneered and immediately retreated to a safe distance away. "We've already investigated you before coming here. How many times can you wave this so-called Buddhist staff? Just hide for now. All of you will die." That marine human sneered. "Apart from Chu Feng, all of you will die." The strange fish nodded. The three marine race experts had long since severed their sixth shackle and possessed astonishing strength. The Manchurian tiger grinned. He might be able to block one of them, but he definitely couldn't deal with all three. "How about we do each other a favor and let us go?" the Manchurian tiger said to the bronze tiger. "You'll be the first to die." The bronze tiger revealed his killing intent and spoke bluntly to the Manchurian tiger. He knew the latter was the one with the highest realm in the group and had to be the first to be killed. "I'll kill you first." The Manchurian tiger was furious. "Kill!" The two tigers roared and charged at each other. Following which, the Donkey King roared angrily and waved his staff, forcing back the marine human who was closing in. It was just that the strange fish pounced over it this time. It was clear that it wanted to exhaust them to death. The marine race already knew that waving the staff would drain the user of all their energy. "Fortunately, I brought the stone fruit," the black yak muttered. He was prepared to eat the fruit to replenish his essence energy and fight to the death. "Let it be." Chu Feng spoke to stop them from acting rashly. He then called the Manchurian tiger back. In the end, the three marine race experts closed in step by step with cold smiles. They had long since landed on the ground. "Chu Feng, have you thought it through? Get over here, or you'll suffer a fate worse than death." The marine human was the most arrogant. "Someone on the continent asked you to deal with me, right? Can you tell me which corporation or special power it is?" Chu Feng asked. "You're overthinking things." The marine human shook his head and raised his hand, indicating for Chu Feng to go over and capture Chu Feng. "Fine, since that's the case, I'll force myself to carry out one last battle." Chu Feng sighed. "You can still carry out one last battle?" The bronze tiger was bewildered. Apparently, he understood Chu Feng's matters very well and became vigilant at this moment. Boom! The next moment, Chu Feng's entire body lit up. His entire body was silvery white, and even his hair was the same. Then, he shot out explosively at 6 times the speed of sound. He was much faster and more powerful than before. Not to mention the marine race experts. Even the black yak and the others were dumbfounded. That was because Chu Feng's eruption was too sudden and terrifying. This speed was simply too terrifying. "Ah!" The strange fish cried out miserably because Chu Feng had already pounced on it. He blasted it with his fist and blasted it into a bloody mist. This ferocious and tyrannical attack was terrifying. The bronze tiger immediately rushed into the sky. Their race's speed was extremely terrifying, and he wanted to escape. Boom! Chu Feng tossed out the diamond chakram. He didn't even look and shot it out based on his intuition. He then chased after the most arrogant marine human. In the sky, the bronze tiger was blasted into smithereens. He looked like he was made of metal, but his blood splattered in all directions. Damn, this is too berserk. How divine! The Donkey King cried out oddly. At the same time, Chu Feng leapt into the air and chased after the marine human who was flapping his wings and trying to escape. Ah! The marine man let out a blood-curdling screech. He couldn't block Chu Feng's fierce and tyrannical strength. In the blink of an eye, he tore off one of his arms and even tore off a bloody wing. He was captured alive and dropped to the ground. Boom! Chu Feng landed on the ground with him in tow and smashed out with a fist, breaking half of his body to prevent him from escaping. Everything happened too quickly like a torrential storm. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the marine race experts were dead and 1 was injured. Speak, tell us everything. Chu Feng looked down at the injured marine human. If everyone has a monthly vote, please vote for the Saint Ground. We're asking for votes at the beginning of the month. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.